Welcome to FSAI HUB Research University, your ultimate guide on your next research project.
We will lay down the best practices in research ideation, literature review, experimental design, and data analysis to guide you as you carry out your research project. Learn from the FSAI HUB team of research scientists and some invited subject matter experts. FSAI HUB Research University of your research project from ideation to final assessment.
And the best part, it's absolutely free.
Visit us at FSAIHub.com and be part of this learning journey.
Let's learn and succeed together here at FSAI HUB Research University. Welcome to FSAI HUB Research University, your ultimate guide on your next research project.
We will lay down the best practices in research ideation, literature review, experimental design, and data analysis to guide you as you carry out your research project. Learn from the FSAI HUB team of research scientists and some invited subject matter experts. FSAI HUB Research University will be your personal coach through every stage of your research project from ideation to final assessment.
And the best part, it's absolutely free.
Visit us at FSAIHub.com and be part of this learning journey.
Let's learn and succeed together here at FSAI HUB Research University.
Mabuhay! Welcome to the Filipino Science Hub. Thank you for your continued support to this online platform. To our new participants, thank you for checking us out today, and we would like to officially welcome you to the FSAI Hub family. Before we start the webinar, I would like to share some For our Zoom participants, we would appreciate it if you could turn your audio and video cameras off during the webinar. If you have questions or comments, feel free to type them on our Zoom chat box or YouTube live comments, and we will try to accommodate as much questions as possible. After the talk, we will have a 30-minute Q&A where the Zoom participants will have the opportunity to ask their questions live. For those who would like to receive a certificate of participation, a Google form link will be posted on our Zoom chat box, YouTube live comments, and YouTube video description towards the end of the webinar. Again, welcome to all our Zoom participants and YouTube live viewers. For those who are new and may not be familiar with who we are and what we do, allow me to share our mission and vision in the next few minutes. Filipino Science Hub is an online platform founded by our CEO, Filipino scientist, Dr. Jeff, currently based in Houston, Texas, United States. Our mission is to promote STEM education and the culture of research among students and teachers in the Philippines and abroad. Our current global leadership team is comprised of volunteer Filipino scientists, seasoned STEM educators, and business executives across the globe. Our vision is to see a technology and innovation-driven Philippines, and we believe that this can be achieved by creating a new generation of well-rounded Filipino STEM enthusiasts. The vision is being carried out via our two major programs, Hub Research University. Through FSAI Hub Ed, we are able to empower and support our teachers by strengthening STEM fundamentals education. We believe that this is important because the more equipped our STEM educators are, the more they can inspire students to pursue a career in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The other major program that drives our vision forward is FSAI Hub Research University. This is where we provide tools for fundamentals of research and bring practicing scientists closer to the educational sector. Our official website is www.fsaihub.com. This is where you can features, all of which are free. We are also present in several social media platforms, so follow us wherever you are most active on to get updated with our web events. Again, thank you for being with us this morning. And to officially start our webinar, I would like to turn the virtual floor over to our host today.
Alright, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat sa Pilipinas. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Jeffrey Bunkin, and we're joined by FSAI HUB Research University's head, Mr. JP Onya, all the way from Finland. Yan. Hi JP, magandang umaga sa iyo.
Welcome contact Kuya Jeff. Pero,
Yes.
I think I don't know if it's my internet connection or your end. Pero,
Okay.
hello, good morning everyone. My name is JP Onya, and together with Doc Jeff, we are welcoming you all to this Saturday session.
Was my audio breaking up earlier?
A bit lagging.
Okay, just like was it when I was speaking or during yung
Yeah, but
video sharing?
now it's fine.
Okay. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Ako po si Jeffrey Bunkin from Houston, Texas, founder and Chief Executive Officer of Filipino Science Hub. Kami dalawa po ni JP Onya from Finland ang makakasama nyo ngayong araw na ito. So maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsama. So I assume ito pong session na ito, this is part of our webinar series intending to teach students and educators from the Philippines kung ano ba yung mga essential skills para sa pag-conduct ng scientific research. And for today, especially ito kasi this is the very first, I think, focus session that we're to college or university level students. Ayan. So, we'd like to siguro get to know rin ang ating mga estudyante. So we have more than 120 students who dialed into Zoom, and then we have about 50 students sa YouTube. So magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Saan po ba galing ang ating mga estudyante ngayong araw na ito? Magparamdam nga kayo kung saan po kayo nagmula.
Our chat box po.
Ayan, sa chat box. Oo. We're monitoring.
Bubuksan ko lang yung YouTube natin.
Yan. Ayan, saan po ba kayo galing? By the way, everyone kayong mahiya. This is going to be a very informal session. Hindi ito yung mga lecture na kaparehas na siguro na-attendan nyo sa university, nakakatakot yung professor. So, ayan. Hindi kami nangangagat ni Kuya JP ninyo. So, we have folks from Tacloban City, Remedios Trinidad Romualdez Medical Incorporated. What's INC? Medyo hindi ko pa. TUP Manila University of the Philippines and Manila from Mountain Province. So medyo galing tayo sa iba't ibang region. So kami ni Kuya JP ninyo, we actually intend to get to know you. So siguro para po sa mga Zoom participants natin, maglo-launch lang kami ni Kuya JP nyo ng a couple of poll questions para malaman naman namin kung ano ba yung specialization ninyo at saka kung anong level na kayo sa college. So pasintabi po sa ating mga kasamahan sa YouTube, medyo hindi nyo po makikita itong poll question na ito, but I would like to ask our participants over here at Zoom na sagutan itong ating poll questions. Ayan. Magandang nakikilala namin ni Kuya JP nyo kung sino yung ating nasa audience para siguro hopefully ma-adjust natin, we can tailor fit like our delivery of the context depende sa kung sino ang ating nasa audience. Ayan. So far, ay kapitan galing. Are you seeing the poll question, JP?
Yeah, I'm seeing already the responses. So we have both students from the medical sciences.
Yes, mostly medical sciences. Awan ng Diyos, wala tayong taga-physics. Meron tayong na nag-chem. 3 biology majors. We have a few engineering. Non-STEM majors, we also have a few of them. And then mostly third year college level. Ayun po sa nasa Zoom pala natin. Paano kayo? Lagyan sa chat box kung anong year.
Sa YouTube. Ayan, lagay lang po sa chat box. For those participating sa YouTube, pakilagay po yung inyong field of study.
Oh, and we also have a Bachelor of Science in Education students. Ayan. So, by the way, ito yung topic natin. This is gonna teach you skills that are transferable. So, meaning, kahit hindi kayo STEM major, may mapupulot at mapupulot kayo dito na pwede niyong gamitin na skills in whatever profession or field of specialization it is that you chose to venture into. Ayan. Right,
so students are in their 3rd year. So ito yung mga nag-prepare for their capstone sa mga magti-thesis siguro. So that's very good to know.
This is like a very good preparation actually. So magandang, kumbaga may matutunan nyo na yung mga skills na kailangan nyo para handang-handa kayo pag pumasok na kayo sa college, sa last year ninyo kapag ginawa nyo na yung inyong capstone project. So I think tumigil na yung pasok ng answers, no? So majority of our audience members ay galing sa medical sciences. Majority of them are also like in their 3rd year. So very timely. All right. So maraming salamat sa inyo. And so allow me to share my screen. And JP, please let me know when you're seeing. Ayan, nakikita niyo po ba?
Yeah, now I can see it.
Okay. So we're getting down to business. So, bale, medyo mahaba-haba itong session na ito, no? So we schedule this from 10 in the morning in the Philippines up until like 1 p.m. So if at some point during the course of this webinar, medyo tinamaan na kayo, nakaramdam na kayo ng gutom, feel free to grab something and kumbaga kasama nyo kami sa inyong tanghalian. Ayan. Alright, so for today, the focus of this webinar this was specifically tailored for college students. And para sa araw na ito, sa unang araw ng ating pagsasama, we are actually covering 4 very important topics. So the first of which is we are going to define what research is. Second, we're also going to be covering one of the most difficult part, if not the most difficult part of a research project journey, which is ideation. So how do you come up with an idea? Third is about review of literature, an activity or a step in the conduct of scientific research that is usually taken for granted, pero a perspective about review of literature. So review of literature is life. So yun yung matututunan nyo sa magkasunod na dalawang araw. And then, the fourth topic, which will be covered by JP, is focusing on the study design. So I think ito, makinig kayo. Kasi ito yung magiging kailangan nyo sa pag-tackle ng inyong or pag-execute ng inyong research project. But before that, allow me to very briefly introduce myself to you. So I am Jeffrey Bunkin, as I mentioned, founder and chief executive officer of Filipino Science Hub. I am a Filipino scientist based here in Houston, Texas. Ako po ay I took up chemistry at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Medyo matanda na kami ni Kuya JP nyo. So, but then after that, I took up my doctorate degree in chemistry in Canada at the University of Alberta. And since then, I have actually ventured into a 14-year career in the research and development sector. So over the past 14 years, pinagdaanan ko yung academic research, government research, and now I'm actually doing corporate research for one of the biggest energy companies in the world. And so far, I have published more than about 16 525 and under litigation. So yeah, so kung yung matututunan nyo dito is actually the distillation of 14 years worth of experience. Ayan, and siguro I would skip through this, but ito yung naging career journey ko from UP all the way to where I am right now, and like while also developing FSAI HUB as a platform or as a nonprofit organization that essentially delivers training courses para ma-improve natin yung mastery ng mga Science Hub is to convince all of you na mag-pursue ng career sa STEM, most especially in the area of innovation. So Kuya JP nyo is a Filipino scientist based in Finland and kaparehas ko. So hopefully ma-inspire namin kayo to venture into careers in research and development. Pero bago tayo mag-discuss about research and theses, I would just like for us to spend some time, kumbaga level setting yung understanding natin of these terms that you typically encounter scientific research. So usually na-encounter itong mga terms na to. So we're gonna begin with, defining with the definition of scientific inquiry, scientific research, scientific method, and research and development. So siguro magtatanong lang ako, no, sa mga kasama natin sa Zoom, makikitaas nga or makiki-thumbs up nga kung sino sa inyo yung very familiar sa kung ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng mga terms na yan. Sino sa inyo yung very familiar sa definition ng iba't ibang terms na yan that you typically encounter while practicing scientific research? Meron ba? Wag kayo mahiya. Okay, so meron tayong isa. Alright? Isa lang? Alright, so wala namang masamang tanong. So we're actually just gauging the room kung anong level ba ng understanding ninyo ng mga terms na yan. But ang goal natin is pag-usapan talaga natin para kumbaga magkakaparehas tayo ng pagkakaintindi. Alright, so let's begin with the term scientific inquiry. So the term scientific inquiry is a very broad term over activities resulting from our curiosity to understand the world. So meaning, pag lumabas kayo ng bahay nyo at meron kayong obserbahan at nagtanong kayo, that activity, whether it is an informal activity, kahit hindi siya part ng thesis o pag-aaral, that in itself is already an act of scientific inquiry. So broad term yan. So exploring. So okay, medyo na-curious ako sa bagay na to. Paano ba to gumagana? So yung pagtatanong nyo at yung pag-observe ninyo, that's part of scientific inquiry. And most importantly, yung isa sa pinakamahalagang aspeto ng scientific inquiry is you seeking explanations or answers to your questions. So yun, so napaka-broad ng term na yan. So pag narinig nyo na scientific inquiry, scientific research, ano bang pinagkaiba nun? So pinakamalaking or pinakamalawak na term yung scientific inquiry. And it is scientific inquiry that serves as the foundation upon which we develop or scientific research and the science method. So nung hindi pa na-formalize na research at saka scientific method, ginagawa na natin to. Ayan, kumaga mas formal lang yung terms na scientific research at saka scientific method. I'm hoping that siguro level set yung understanding natin yan. So what about scientific research? So scientific research, on the other hand, it is a systematic way to perform scientific inquiry. And we typically perform scientific research to gain or establish knowledge about a specific topic. So I would give emphasis to that, to a specific topic. So when you perform scientific research, you are trying to understand one subject. So meaning it's focused. All right? So yun yung gusto kong tatandaan ninyo. Scientific kalat-kalat. Hindi yung, gusto ko maintindihan yung isang daang magkakaibang bagay. So when you perform scientific research, most especially sa college, you're picking a specific topic. All right? And the main intention of scientific research is to answer a set of questions about that topic. All right? So it's a systematic and a formal process. All right. Most of you, I would assume, had also heard of the term research and development already. And we loosely use this term, no? Pag tinanong, actually ako, pagka-graduate ko ng college, tinatanong ko, ano gusto mo maging career? Ako lagi and development. So, loosely ginagamit ko yung term na yun. Pero sa totoo lang ay kung kailan ko na talagang naintindihan yung essence na research and development was when I was already working sa corporate world. Kasi hindi ka na medyo madaling ma-misunderstood na yung ginagawa mong research is also involving development. So hihimayin natin yan. So like I said earlier, research, it is to gain knowledge or to improve our understanding of a certain topic. So once you have answered the question, meaning you have already done your research. Pero yung development pala, so development, what we do is we apply produce solutions, products, and materials. So, masasabi mo lang that you have performed research and development kapag yung natutunan mo sa pag-perform ng research na apply mo na. O kapag ginamit mo para mag-invento ka ng bagong technology, pag mag-invento ka ng solusyon sa existing challenges that you're faced with. So, yun yung essence ng research and development. Alright? Hindi yung nag-research ka lang, sasabihin mo, I am performing R&D. Dapat na-apply, dapat merong output. Dapat meron kang outcome. Alright. Okay ba? Please let us know. And today, sa 3 oras ito, marami tayong topics na i-cover. So we would encourage for you to ask questions para na address natin yan before magpatong-patong yung mga concepts na ituturo natin. Alright? Okay. Okay, now, so what about the scientific method? So scientific method, this is the most fundamental process in scientific inquiry. So imagine, when you perform scientific research, halimbawa, I would like to model yung pag-spread ng COVID topic nyo, no? Within that research topic, typically for you to understand or to come up with an explanation dun sa napili nyong subject, usually you have to tackle siguro 1, 2, or 3 questions, no? So the process by which you answer each of those 3 questions is what you call the scientific method. So yun yun. So yung scientific method, yun yung gagamitin nyo to come up with answers to specific questions. So when you say a scientific method, you're trying to answer it by experimentation. So you have to do work. So ganon yung scaffolding ng mga concepts na yan. So a set of questions can improve your understanding of a specific topic, that is scientific research. And when you perform a multitude of different scientific research, tackling the different aspects of a much bigger field, yun na yung scientific inquiry. So palaki siya ng palaki. Ganun yung pagkaka-design noon. So this is also the reason why, kung mapapansin nyo, sa first year high school ninyo, unang tinuturo sa inyo yung scientific method. So it is the scientific method that is first taught at the basic education level. So bakit ba ganun yan? So ganito kasi yung overall design. So, scientific method muna sa first year, high school. And then, from your first year hanggang 3rd year, typically, you were taught how to perform experiments, no? So, laboratory experiments. So, yung laboratory experiments na yun, those are opportunities for you to learn how to practice the scientific method. And then, meron tayo at all levels, whether it be sa college or sa high school level, meron kayong capstone project, no? Meron kayong capstone project sa 4th year. And that is for the reason na since na-practice nyo na yung first 3 years nyo ang pag-perform ng scientific method through laboratory experiments, dapat pagdating nyo na 4 kayo to tackle your own research using what you learned from your first 3 years of performing experiments. Yun yung reason kung bakit ganoon. And then, if you chose eventually to become a scientist or to become an innovator, just like me and your Kuya JP, that's when you truly perform scientific inquiry. Okay? And then, yung mga matututunan nyo dyan sa inyong scientific inquiry conquest, kapag na-apply nyo yan, that's when you come up and contribute to society by inventing new technologies that would benefit mankind. So yan yung ginagawa namin nila Kuya JP nyo para sa amin. As Filipinos, we're also representing yung bayan natin sa international arena when it comes to research and development para makakontribute din tayo not only para sa Pilipinas but para sa benefit ng buong mundo. Alright? Okay. So now, I actually would like to also give you a better understanding kung bakit ba mahalaga yung research and development. This time, from the perspective of our Department of Science and Technology sa Pilipinas. So meron silang Science for Change program that they launched. I think this was back in ng ating Department of Science and Technology kung bakit mahalaga ang R&D sa Pilipinas. So they mentioned that R&D is very important because it is our mechanism to resolve challenges as a nation. So for example, nung nagkaroon ng COVID pandemic, para makapili tayo ng tamang solution at hindi magkasakit ang karamihan sa atin at mas konti ang mamatay, they had to depend on science, on research and development. Ano ba yung mga bagong gamot? Ano ba yung tamang protocol? So all of those solutions came from research and development. One of the benefits of performing R&D in the Philippines is that we are able to come up with knowledge-driven solutions and evidence-based answers. So meaning, hindi lang tayo nanguhula kung paano natin pinapatakbo ang bansa, hindi lang tayo nanguhula kung ano ba yung mga health programs natin, for example, ano yung mga technologies na gagamitin ng magsasaka, lahat ng solusyon na ihahatid natin ay galing sa masusing pag-aaral at pagtuklas at pag-iimbento. Yan. So, and then, so that's the importance, ano? But then, one of the most important kahit paano pag-aaral natin dito, yung invention, yung research, they are performed by the people, no? So we need scientists sa Pilipinas rin para magsulong ng ating research and development initiatives. And this is also one of the reasons why kami ni Kuya JP nyo, 12 years ago, we have founded Filipino Science Hub after a webinar that we delivered among teachers sa Batangas City kasi nagulat kami noon ay kulang talaga yung kaalaman. And nabahala kami kasi kapag hindi masyadong train ang mga bata sa research, maging scientists in the future, or maging inventors, or maging engineers. And alam niyo bang napakalaking challenge na sa Pilipinas ngayon? Kasi noong 2018, UNESCO published a study and they said that for the Philippines to sustain its economic development, kailangan ng Pilipinas noong 2018 ng 380 Filipino scientists per million population. Unfortunately, during that year, we only had 189 per million population. So, hindi pa tayo nangalahati. And when they benchmark, so ikinumpara nila, sa mga countries natin, napakalaki ng diferensya. So, during that year, Singapore had 6,900 scientists per million population. Malaysia and Thailand had 2,000 and 1,000 respectively per million Malaysians and Thais. So ganun, kalaki yung diferensya. Kaya kami rin nila Kuya JP nyo, we're doing all these kahit pa medyo malayo kami sa bansa para ma-share namin sa inyo yung mga natututunan namin sa research and development to hopefully inspire kahit pa a fraction of you guys na who are nasa session natin ngayon, na buksan nyo yung isip nyo kasi kami, nagaling rin kami sa Pilipinas. Actually kami ni Kuya JP nyo, galing kami sa mga pamilyang mahihirap sa Batangas. Ka kung gugustuhin mo rin naman. Ayan, so we hope that you join us in this journey. Alright, so before ako pumunta sa next topic natin, I would like to entertain questions. Meron pa kayong question about dun sa definition na ginawa natin of scientific inquiry, research, scientific method, development, and how all of these like tie together to bring value to the people? Ayan. Meron ba kayong questions? Wala ba?
Ano? Lang natin yung responses sa YouTube. Kasi I think there's a 10-second lag.
Yan. Yeah, so we're taking a few minutes to answer questions that you may have. Wag kayo mahiya. We're all friends here. Okay, so far we have about 240 participants. So ay maraming salamat po sa pagsama sa akin.
Yeah.
Ayan. So
42
siguro
on
habang
YouTube.
hindi sila nagtatanong, pag-usapan natin to, JP. Ako kasi I would admit, naging klaro talaga sa akin yung konsepto ng research and development after na ng PhD ko. Kasi
Yeah.
I don't think nung panahon natin meron talagang subject sa UP na what's research and development. Di ba wala na ganun?
Yeah. The closest that we had, the closest
Even when
notion na nakuha natin ay yung thesis natin, di ba? But for us, it was just another requirement.
Yep. So it was just another requirement. Walang preparatory course. And then essentially, ang ginagawa lang nila nun, magti-thesis ka na. And then you figure it out. Para kang itinapon sa gubat. And then and then you have 1 year to get through it and makalabas ka, pupunta ka sa sibilisasyon para makagraduate ka. Parang ganun yung proseso, no? And this is also the reason why, para po sa ating mga estudyante ngayon na nandito sa ating session, this is the reason why we're doing this. Kasi yung kung ano man yung pagkalito or hindi nyo naiintindihan sa research and development, most especially sa konteksto ng pag-perform ng thesis sa college, babaguhin natin yan. So, since karamihan sa inyo ay nasa third year college, before kayo formally mag-start ng inyong 1-year thesis journey, we hope that through this, medyo mas confidence to perform your college research. And siguro ito, magtatanong ako. Question para sa ating audience members, what is the purpose of college research? So, lalo na kayo, nasa STEM yung karamihan ng mga estudyante natin. You're specializing in STEM and in the medical sciences. Why do you think nire-require kayo na mag-perform ng scientific research? Meron ba ditong masyado mahihain yung audience natin? So, bakit sa tingin niyo nagpe-perform tayo ng scientific research and at the end nagsusulat tayo ng thesis? Ano lang ba yan? Para lang ba maging ma-occupy kayo sa fourth year niyo? Wala lang bang ibang pwede?
Sa part ng curriculum.
At saka bakit sa part ng curriculum? Meron ba sa inyo napaisip niyo na bakit ko kailangan mag-thesis, no? Hindi ba pwedeng take na lang ako ng subjects, mag-exam ako, pagkapasa ko, tapos na, I should get my degree. Alright?
Yeah, and not even all colleges and universities require college thesis, di ba? Yung iba, practicum lang.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ayan. Alright. Meron nag-comment. Ayan, may nagsabi. So for us to know how to solve a problem and be assured that our decision is right. So, maganda yan. That's a part of it. She's from the medical sciences, to identify proper diagnosis and treatment. And that's also like part
of mga magiging doktor yata to.
Yes, mga magiging future doctors natin to. Ito may nagsabi naman, civilian. This is more a comment, no? So sabi, gusto niya yung movement, ang problem niya lang ay hindi siya skilled sa pagsusulat ng scientific paper. Naku, bukas yung session natin is gonna focus on how to draw conclusions, analyze yung data, at most important and equally importantly, ang pagsusulat ng thesis or pagsusulat ng scientific report. Ayan.
Yeah.
Then to the real world. Okay, that's also very important. Alright, so maraming salamat. Baka nag-warm up na yung mga estudyante natin. May pumapasok pa. Contribute to the body of knowledge in science and be part of a solution to perennial issues and drive change. So grabe naman itong ating mga sagot na to. Ang ganda. So for me, as a fourth-year student and as a Filipino major, well, my topic is Filipino also or Tagalog. A research component within an area of study allows for a broader educational experience. Students seeking a comprehensive for college experience explore the effects of applying new thought processes through study of language and testing. Ang ganda naman ng sagot na innovation since everything changes, very important, to provide potential solutions to new and current problems. And then merong may nag-private message sa akin. I think it's not just because for us to be graduated, but because maybe for future purposes, as what you've said, sir, Philippines need more researchers. That's also like a very important aspect of it. And next, to understand how things work in various areas of study related to medicine. All right, so ang ganda ng mga sagot nyo, no? So I would actually move on to the next slide. So ano ba yung thesis? So let's define what a thesis is. So this was a definite university website. I forgot, like it's GCU. So I think it's it's an American university, but essentially a thesis is an academic report about a research project completed at the end of a student's degree program. So by definition, yung thesis is a report, no? But then yung thesis is actually based on a college research on a selected and reasonably narrow topic of interest in your chosen field of specialization. So yung technical definition ng thesis is a report, no? But then ano ba yung higher purpose ng pag-perform ng thesis? So yung higher purpose yan is, yung thesis nyo is the culmination of your degree program. So if you chose to specialize in, say, biological sciences, yung goal kasi nun, that's why you had to take up 4 or 5 for you to become an expert. So yung college research or yung thesis nyo, it is an opportunity for you to apply what you have learned in your chosen field. So meaning, kung ano man yung natutunan nyo, nung 4 na taon na yun, i-apply nyo by performing research. So hindi lang siya degree requirement. That is part of your journey to become an expert in your chosen field of study. Pag sinabi sa'yo, ano yung major mo? Nag-major ako sa chemistry. So kaya dinesign yung na magkaroon ng thesis yung mga chemists is that such that para meron kang mapakitang body of work that will not only contribute to the chemical sciences, but then para meron kayong mapapakita past 4 years, ito yung kinalabasan. Ginamit ko para masagot tong question na to or para masolve itong problem na to. So yun talaga yung essence ng thesis. Hindi lang yung, ay, bakit ba ako? Ano, ba't ba ako pinagawa nito? Bored lang ba sila? So hindi ganun yun. So again, it's a culmination. It is an opportunity for you to apply what you have learned sa klase para talaga, kasi yung best actualization of or yung culmination of any learning journey is by you being able to actualize it. So meaning nagamit nyo talaga. And that's how you're prepared to conquer yung outside world. Sabi nga nung isang sumagot kanina. Alright?
It's part of skills building, diba?
Yeah, skills development. And speaking of skills, yan ang magiging focus natin ngayong araw na ito. So kami ni Kuya JP nyo, what we'll do over the next couple of days is that we will unpack all of the critical steps sa college research process. So from ideation all the way down to thesis writing. Pero, yung gagawin namin pag-discuss ng Kuya JP nyo, hindi ito yung formulaic approach na, yung kung anong mababasa nyo sa libro, i-define lang namin what is ideation. Hindi ganon. Ang focus namin ni Kuya JP nyo is, for every step of the research process, ni Kuya JP nyo, we will cover the first 3 steps: ideation, literature search, and experimental design. Or study design. So yung 3 skills, gusto namin maturo sa inyo is unang-una, creativity. Pangalawa, the ability to formulate good questions and to scope out or come up with a work plan. And then third and most importantly, how do you design your study? Ano ba yung gagawin mo for yung 1 year na magpe-perform ka ng research? And then most especially, ito meron kami mga bullet points na ipinakita dyan sa baba. Ano ba talaga yung mga dapat yung matutunan? Ayan. So skills yung focus natin. Kapag natutunan nyo itong mga skills na to, kahit yung future career nyo is hindi about R&D, magagamit nyo itong mga ito. Alright? Okay. So so kung saan ako magsisimula, before tayo pumasok sa ideation, gusto ko rin na maging klaro sa inyo. When you're actually venturing into scientific research, usually, di ba meron kayong research advisor, ano? So mahalaga that you actually establish productive and highly collaborative relationship with your thesis advisor. So, ano ba yung magiging role dapat ng thesis advisor at ano yung role ng student? So, ito, tinuro namin sa mga teachers dun sa unang version nitong talk na to. Mentor yung mga teacher natin, paano ka ba maging magaling na advisor? So, una sinabi namin, bilang advisor, ang role nila is usually to provide guidance. So, ibig sabihin, ay in an ideal case, hindi yung dapat involved kayo sa pag-develop ng ideas, hindi yung teacher, hindi yung advisor nyo lang yung nag-iisip. And then pangalawa, ang goal, ang dapat role ng mga advisors nyo is to teach you the skills, no? Hindi sila yung gagawa. Alright, so dapat klaro yan sa inyo. So as research students, dapat kapag nag-thesis kayo, you should aspire to generate your own ideas or collaborate with your teachers on generating the ideas. Responsible for designing and implementing a research project. Alright, dapat ganyan yung relationship. Alright? Okay, so papasok tayo dun sa first part. So ideation. But before we actually talk about ideation, I would like to also spend some time to give you siguro a much better understanding of why ideas are important. No? So ideas are at the core of any research and technology development journey. So yan yung starting point nyo. No? So sabi nga ni Edward de Bono, and kaya ko gustong ituro ito sa inyo is that if you learn how to come up with great ideas, you're actually you're setting yourself up for success. Kasi pag nagtrabaho na kayo, kahit hindi R&D yung work ninyo, your ability kapag komportable kayo mag-generate ng idea, you can come up with a bunch of solutions and you can create value sa kahit anumang kumpanyang pagtrabahuhan nyo at sa kahit anong profesyon na inyong piliin. Ayan. Alright. So, kailan ba kayo nag-ideate? So, as early as elementary or high school, yun sa mga projects niyo pa lang. Ideally, those activities so, paano ko ba gagawin itong project na to? Ano ba yung design na gagawin ko? And then, siguro pinaka-obvious to from the perspective of, siguro in the context of science, ay kapag nagpa-participate ka sa science fair, no? Sa high school, nagkakaroon ka ng science investigatory projects. So, ito yung early exposure nyo. So, hopefully, no, yung experience nyo sa high school ay nabigyan kayo ng pagkakataon na mag-isip kayo ng idea. And if not, kung hindi man, kung nabigay man sa inyo yung idea at in-implement nyo na lang, hopefully sa college, no, you try to aspire or aspire to be involved in the ideation process. So, ang goal namin ni Kuya JP dito is, after nito, hindi na kayo yung, sir, ma'am, pahingi po ng idea. Kayo, mahihirapan kayo mag-perform ng research kapag ganun kayo. You should not depend on others. You should be able to come up with your own ideas. Alright. So siguro tanong ko lang, kasi siguro sa inyo, meron na rin mga naka-experience ng high school. Why is ideation hard? Bakit mahirap mag-generate ng ideas? Meron ba sa atin na gusto mag-share ng experience kahit sa Zoom chat? Siguro medyo leading yung question ko, no? Nahihirapan ba kayo sa ideation? Or madali lang ba ito para sa inyo? Okay. Mukhang medyo nag-iisip pa sila Ayan. Alright. So why is ideation hard? So mahirap ang ideation because unang-una, so medyo nag-skip lang yung slides ko, no? Please bear with me. So ideation is hard because unang-una, ano ba yung it's medyo mahirap mag-isip. Ano ba yung mga problema kailangan nating lutasin, no? So yun yung unang-una. Pangalawa, challenge things. No, kailangan mag-isip na medyo malalim-lalim. Paano ba ito gumagana? bakit ba ito hindi gumagana? So, kapag hindi kayo sanay mag-formulate ng question, coming up with ideas is very difficult. So, kaya, yung abilidad nyo to come up with ideas also starts with curiosity. So, kapag hindi kayo naturally curious na tao, dapat sanayin nyo rin yung sarili nyo kung paano magtanong para maintindihan ang iba't ibang mga bagay. So, mahirap rin mag-ideate. Siguro kahit marunong kayo mag-formulate ng question, minsan mahirap siya kasi intimidating na, ay, ito yung tanong ko. Pero kaya ko ba ito? Isip natin, kailangan ng resources, kailangan nila ng expertise na baka wala tayo. No? So sometimes, nadi-discourage tayo na mag-come up ng ideas kasi takot tayo na, ay, baka hindi namin kaya. Or baka wala kaming gamit. So ilang lang to sa mga aspects na that make ideation hard. Also, so ito medyo notorious ang Asian culture dito na kapag nag-ideate tayo, takot din tayo mapahiya kasi baka hindi maganda yung idea ko. Ay baka yung idea ko medyo hindi siya maganda, baka mapagalitan ako ng teacher, no? So mahirap ang ideation kasi minsan yung environment does not nurture yung pag-generate. So we should move past like all these hurdles. Ang isipin natin, hindi man tayo expert ngayon, we have to start somewhere. Alright. So dito na papasok yung very important skill na gusto namin ituro sa inyo about ideation, which is creativity. So ano ba yung definition ng creativity? So creativity is defined as the tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. Ayan. So yun yung definition ng creativity. So, and I would also like to a mental process. Yung creativity, minimeasure niyan sa outcome. Ano ba yung idea na nabuo mo? Maganda ba yung idea na nabuo mo? Hindi lang yung, ay, nag-isip ako, brainy ako. So, since kaya ko mag-isip, creative ako, hindi yon. So, ang creativity ay sinusukat depende sa quality ng idea na meron ka. Or na
Alright? Yeah, Jeff, i-raise ko lang itong comment ni John Lawrence Katungal. Sabi niya, ideation is hard because some ideas are redundant or hindi na siya ganun kailangan. So, dito pumapasok yung sinabi mo na creativity kasi we might think that some studies are redundant kasi na-apply siya sa isang certain research context. So, creativity should enable you to think out of the box and provide a fresh context to that problem.
And gusto ko yung point na bringing up niya na redundant, no? Pero, may iba't ibang forms din ng creativity, no? Minsan, pwede nating ulitin yung idea ng iba. There's a different form of creativity na gusto ko rin i-introduce sa inyo. So siguro ito, actually itong first part nitong talk ko heavily focuses on creativity. Ng steps, dapat ma-recognize nyo rin na may iba't ibang klase ng creativity. Alright, so creativity, sinabi ko kanina, no, is the ability to generate ideas. Ano naman yung innovation? So, innovation is the implementation of creative ideas. So, kaparehas kanina, yung research and development, ito yung parang development part. So, kapag nakaisip ka na ng idea, how do you implement that? So, yun yung process na yun. So, if you're creative, you can come up with ideas. But if you're innovative, you're able to implement your creative ideas. Alright? So, maraming definition of terms ngayon. No? Pero mahalaga kasi naiintindihan nyo to para pag nag-perform na kayo ng thesis, naiintindihan nyo, nasang part na ba ako ng journey? Alright. And then, so, ito, as I mentioned, creativity is an essential skill. So, yung mga jobs over the next 10, 20, and 30 years, alam nyo, kailangan nyo nang matuto ng creativity because it is gonna be a skill that will differentiate you from the rest of the workforce. So, creativity, bakit mahirap? It requires change. So, kapag nag-imbestiga kayo, may mga bagay kayong kailangan baguhin. Kapag merong hindi gumagana, kailangan nyong ayusin. Kapag merong sumusobra, kailangan nyong bawasan. Kapag meron kulang, kailangan nyong dagdagan. So, kaya may secondly, you have to challenge or reject some aspects of the status quo. So kung ano man yung sistema yung, for example, if you're using a certain app right now and you're not liking a specific function of it, then what do you do to address that? So that requires questioning or rejecting the status quo. Kung ano yung hindi nyo nagugustuhan, gawan nyo ng solusyon. So ganun yan. Risk-taking and failing. So since you're trying to improve things, what that will require is for you to experiment. And part of experimentation is doing some work that might lead to failure or that might lead to success. So meaning, pag may chance na gumana at hindi gumana. So that's risk-taking. And then lastly, yung gaya na sinabi ko kanina, minsan mahirap maging creative because yung idea mo baka hindi mo ma-implement kasi baka wala kang gamit, hindi ka naman expert doon. So again, it's dealing with constraints. But then ang gusto ko rin ituro sa inyo, yung mga estudyante, is that minsan kasi meron tayong naiisip or nalilimitahan tayo ng mga utak natin na ay feeling ko hindi kaya kasi wala tayong gamit. But then ang gusto ko matutunan nyo rin in the context of creativity is that constraint really a constraint? Diba? Limitasyon ba talaga yon? Or baka pwede ba natin gawa ng paraan para hindi siya maging limitasyon? So, isa din yun sa mahalagang you recognize to be limitations. Alright. Ang tanong, so are creatives born or are creatives taught? So, meron tayong yung kumbaga ang pinakamahalagang aspetong gusto kong maituro sa inyo is yung creativity hindi lang kumbaga siguro meron genetic elements na pwede mong mamana, meron ka genetically predisposed ka, but then ang creativity is something that you learn through practice. You might have some genetic predisposition pero kung hindi ka naman nag-venture into creative pursuit, naturally creative, kung magpa-practice ka naman, maraming matututunan. Itong gusto ko rin ituro sa inyo na baka ang konsepto nyo ng pagiging scientist or inventor ay dapat genius ka. Mali po yan, fake news yan. Hindi mo kailangan maging genius para maging matagumpay kang scientist. Kasi itong mga bagay na ito, yung pagiging creative can be learned through practice. So again, practice and exposure, risk-taking, and resiliency. So yun yung gusto rin namin ituro sa inyo ni Kuya JP na hindi lahat ng ginagawa namin ay gumagana. Alright? Alright, so dito na papasok yung iba't ibang klase ng creativity. So dito na papasok yung comment din kanina about, hey, some ideas are actually quite redundant. So when do you know that you have a creative idea? So dito papasok yung iba't ibang klase ng creativity. So unang-una is what we consider to be the highest form of creativity, which is creation. So ano ba ibig sabihin ng creation? So kapag yung creation is a form of creativity where an individual is able to come up with something that nobody has ever thought of or actualized before. So meaning, yung kauna-unahang naka-invento ng internet, yung kauna-unahang naka-develop ng CRISPR, what they were able to achieve was creation. So meaning isa sila sa unang naka-conceptualize ng idea na yun, sila yung first movers. Sila yung mga original, no? Mga orig. So yung ito typically yung mga nananalo ng Nobel Prizes, no? Ganon kataas yung level ng creativity na sila yung nauna, and the impacts of what they were able to achieve ay napakalawak. So yun yung analogy dyan, and these are like some of the common examples. But then, we would like to also teach you the fact that kumbaga, creation is not the only form of creativity. And ito yung pinakamahirap na level ng creativity na ma-achieve. Kahit kami ni Kuya JP ninyo, we continue pursuits to come up with something na nasa ganitong level, pero hindi lahat nakakaabot dyan at napakahirap niyan. So dito namin ipapasok yung iba't ibang levels of creativity. So since yung creation is the highest level, you don't have to force yourself to practice creation, lalong-lalo na sa college level, no? So ang konseptong gusto rin namin ituro sa inyo ay yung paglakad muna bago kayo tumakbo. So let's walk before we run. So siguro yung ultimate destination natin is creation, but then we can start dun sa lower levels of creativity. So let's start with synthesis. So ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng synthesis? Synthesis is a form of creativity ideas or technologies are combined into a new idea. So for example, this is hopefully a relatable example, no? So meron tayong mga research back then about mRNA. So yung mga nasa med sciences natin, you should appreciate that. And then meron din tayong research naman on nanotechnology, which is like more about materials, their structures and their functions, ano? So a good example of synthesis was, the development of the mRNA COVID vaccine. So may na-develop na technologies, I think back in the 80s or 70s about mRNA technology sa pag-treat ng certain diseases or viral infections. But then, how do you deliver the active material dun sa target mo na system? Dito papasok yung nanotechnology. So ang ginawa, merong lipid technology na in-apply para ma-coat yung active ingredient, yung vaccine, para protected sila at hindi ma-decompose and ma-deliver doon sa targeted area of action, which is yung pagpatay ng virus. So ganun yung naging technology niya. So meaning, pinagsama nila. So dalawang magkaibang area or technology, they combined it to come up with something na bago. That's cutting edge. And that this actually impacted millions of lives all over the past. Actually, one of the original inventors of the lipid nanotechnology that was used para sa COVID vaccine ay katrabaho ko ngayon. He's also a scientist. So, ayan. Alright, so that's synthesis, no? So meaning...
And they got a Nobel Prize for that.
Yes. Yes. So yun, again, merong mga original inventors niyan. Pero ang ginawa nila is pinagsama nila and they came up with something that's new. This is something that you can also achieve sa thesis. So meaning, you don't have to come up with an all-original body of work. Samahan niyo yung dalawa o tatlong yun to come up with something that is a derivative but also in a way is original kasi kayo lang ang nakaisip ng ganong application. Alright. So ito naman yung siguro pinaka-basic na form of creativity which we call modification. So modification, so meaning you're adding or changing something new to an incumbent technology or idea. So an example that I can give you, so wala tayong masyadong chemistry majors dito, no? Meron tayong mga materials na tinatawag natin na catalyst. So catalyst. So meron tayong tinatawag na catalyst. So catalysts are the rate of a chemical reaction. No? So for example, when it comes to bioremediation, so meaning kapag meron kayong bodies of water na gusto nyo tanggalin yung mga toxins, pwede kayong gumamit ng catalyst para i-decompose yung mga toxic material. So usually yung mga catalyst na yan, kung may isipin yung buhangin, so silica, for example, what they do is they deposit chemicals such as metals dun sa surface ng buhangin and yun yung nagre-react dun sa mga toxins. So, a way to modify it is, for example, pwede nyo gamitin yung same active material, say like iron, for example, pwede nyo baguhin yung isang part na. So, sa pwede solid such as graphene, which is an all-carbon solid material. And this is something that was achieved by a friend of mine from the University of the Philippines. So what she did was, so this is Professor Medjoan Aguila in UP. So what she did was, she deposited iron, which is a known catalyst sa pag-decompose ng mga organic material sa tubig. Sa halip na gumamit siya ng alumina or silica, yung kaparehas ng buhangin, gumamit siya ng carbon-based material which is graphene. And she was actually able to show that yung bagong material, binago lang niya yung isang component, binago lang niya yung solid, modification. So again, hindi siya ang original na naka-discover ng graphene, hindi rin naman siya ang original na naka-discover ng iron sa pag-perform ng fentanyl reaction, but what she did was, she replaced a component of a known catalyst to come up with something new. So again, that is modification. So kapag nag-iisip kayo ng idea for your research, maaaring may mabasa kayong idea na, ay, redundant, nagawa na pala to. Pero ang isipin nyo, nagamit na ba to sa lahat ng application? Or meron ba akong pwedeng baguhin na slight element nung inaral nila application. So again, kami ni Kuya JP nyo, I can actually say that there's a big part of our body of work sa master, sa PhD man, or sa amin mga professional careers na nag-leverage rin kami or gumamit rin kami na kung anong naaral or na-establish na nung iba. Ayan. So, and in all honesty, kung nabubuhay tayo sa panahon nila Einstein, ng mga panahon na yun, wala pang masyadong discoveries, no? Madali pang makadiscover ng something original. But then, I think the best part about how sciences, the fields years ay exponential yung growth. So meaning, karamihan ng low-hanging fruits, napitas na nila. Karamihan ng mga discoveries na madaling ma-prove or ma-develop, kumbaga nakuha na nila. Ngayon, mas konti na yung medyo mas mahirap nang maka-come up ng something na super original. So, just because magmo-modify lang kayo ng idea ng iba doesn't mean that you're not creative. So, like, all of these are very important. Kasi sa totoo lang, when it comes to technology development, yung mga ginagamit sa cellphone nyo yun sa pangaraw-araw na buhay, those are typically a combination of yung outputs ng lahat ng forms ng creativity. Meron dyang product of modification. At sa kung alin man dito, ang inyong ma-achieve sa inyong college research, you are all contributing to the body of knowledge. Ayan. So huwag nyong, kumbaga, huwag nyong i-look down upon yung modification or synthesis kasi all of these are very important. Alright? O sige, magbibigay ako ng 5 minutes per question, kasi after nito, papasok na tayo sa ideation at saka sa review of literature. So, this is your chance to ask questions about creativity rin.
Ayan, maghintay tayo
para masagot na
ng questions. So siguro may isip nila ano ba ang advisable for college students undergoing a thesis project, kung ano ba, modification ba or creation. So sabi nga ni Doc Jeff, creation is like the highest form of creativity. So it's really hard to come by with an all original thesis.
Yep.
Di ba? So ano ba, tumulan ba tayo sa synthesis or sa modification? And yun, ano ba yung advisable talaga? Kasi if you think about a thesis, so ultimately, time frame that is only 1 year.
1 year. 1 year.
Yeah. So it's really hard to come up with an all original study. Yep. And sometimes sabi ni Kuya Jeff, we're leveraging on what has already been established. So kaya lang, ang dilemma doon is that we might think na yung study natin is not original or hindi na kailangan. So doon pumapasok yung creativity on how you synthesize a new context in an old study, di ba?
And siguro actually, I like that you raised this point, JP, kasi I don't think yung mga research advisors na sa college would expect for you to come up with something all original. If they are expecting you to come up with something that all original or yung creation level, I think there's something wrong with their expectation,
Yeah.
Because if you come up with something na at the creation level, typically it takes years. So years to come up with the idea and to validate it, and for people or for the field to truly validate it, minsan tumatagal yan ng 10 o 20 dekada, saka lang nila marirealize na, ay, original pala yung na-develop ko kapag nakita nila yung impact.
Yeah.
So, ganun siya. So, ito yung mga bagay na gusto naming i-demystify din sa inyo na baka kasi may nagsiset ng unrealistic expectations. So, whether it's your advisor or baka kayo feeling nyo, ay, kailangan na all original yung
Yeah.
Oo. So, teka, medyo be kind to yourself kasi to Kuya JT's point, you actually have only 1 year. Swerte nyo nga kung 1 year, no? Eh, yung buong school year, 10 months lang yan.
Exactly.
So, if it of idea within 10 months na hindi pa kulang pa kayo sa expertise, kulang kayo sa gamit. So again, you have to manage your expectation. So ayan.
Exactly. And maybe that's the reason why ideation is hard. Kasi iniisip mo na parang, dapat ba all original yung thesis ko, di ba? Yeah.
Yes. Yun yung pinakamahirap. Kapag kasi kapag pumalya kayo sa ideation, it's gonna set the tone kung ano ba yung magiging journey ninyo. And then, ito sabi ni Sir Marlo Fabia, if the technology generated is a result of synthesis and modification, or are these can be claimed in IP?
Can it be considered as novel technology?
So, okay. Gusto kong topic to.
Yeah.
So for as long as yung operative is merong inventive aspect. So if you made material...
There is a threshold, di ba?
Yeah. So kapag kahit pa ginamit niyo yung kaparehas na element, but kapag meron kayong something na binago and nag-improve yung performance, typically, that is also a form of intellectual property that you can protect in the form of patents. Actually, meron kaming webinar on IP, part of our review of literature. Diniscuss natin ito. So you may actually want to refer there. Kasi ayun din nalaman kapag pwedeng i-patent or hindi. Alright. Okay. So, I'm gonna go back to my presentation kasi we just finished like the first hour, no? So, ipapasok pa natin dito yung ideation. So, a few things that we would like to cover, before tayo pumunta in the thick of ideation. So, there's one very important, siguro, concept na gusto namin i-clarify ni Kuya JP ninyo. So, yung pagkakaturo kasi ng scientific method, hindi ko naman po nila lahat sa high school. To highlight is, or to emphasize, is the fact that scientific research, it is not a linear process. No? So from idea selection all the way to execution, data analysis, report or thesis writing, all the way to presentation, hindi po yan yung linear stepwise process. So it is the operative term is it is an iterative process. So meaning, yung totoong itsura po niyan, as you generate your ideas, you start with an idea, you try to search the literature to really define the topic that iteratively until you come up with something that is focused enough and actionable. So meaning, pag pinili mo yung idea mo na yun, alam mo kung anong gagawin mo para maintindihan mo or masagot mo yung question. And then, as you perform the experiments and you generate the data, sometimes you'll realize na, I designed the experiment this way because of my understanding of the field, but then it turns out itong result na to hindi ko mapaliwanag. So meaning, minsan babalik ka uli sa literature to understand ano bang explanation itong mga results na nakukuha ko. So ibig sabihin, tagdi-tagni. So magkakadikit or interconnected yung lahat ng steps sa research process na yan. So kung ang expectation mo is ako third month mag-experiment ako, fourth month data analysis, fifth month magsusulat ako ng thesis, you're setting yourself up for disappointment kasi hindi mo na-predict ang result. So you cannot actually force nature to do something that it doesn't want to do. Alright, so meaning, kapag naiintindihan niyo to na merong mga possible setbacks, so pwedeng bumalik ako sa first step. Yan yung mahalagang dapat niyo maintindihan. Kasi minsan, ito din yung sakit. Ito, naranasan namin ito sa UP na hindi namin nakita na, may mga unexpected results, tapos nasa last month ka na. Hindi mo alam kung gagraduate ka.
Ouch!
Kaya namin pinapakita to is para alam niyo na, if you're gonna perform scientific research, give yourself enough leeway na kung hindi gumana, so for example, ang graduation yung ay May, dapat by January may idea na kayo kung gumagana siya. Kasi hindi kayo makakapaghintay na hanggang April, tapos April, graduation next month, wala akong results. Ibig sabihin, may extend ako. Naalala mo ba yung mga panahon natin sa UPGP?
Yeah.
Ayan. So again, sabi namin iterative. Ang problema kasi, for example, bakit dapat kayo spend ng time Minsan, ay, ito yung idea ko. Tapos, hindi sila magbabasa ng literature, hindi nila i-define yung scope ng study nila. Ang gagawin kasi, ito yung idea ko, didiretso na sa experiment. Ang problema kasi, when you jump to the solution or when you jump to experimentation, minsan marirealize mo, mali pala yung tanong na naisip ko. Hindi pala siya magandang idea. So ano nangyayari doon? Pag na-discover mo yan, 5 months into your thesis process, back cast to square one, and you only have what? 4 or 5 months remaining to start from step 1. Kaya, wag niyo i-take for granted yung ideation. So, yung sinabi ko kaninang terms, so meaning, clearly defined, and alam mo kung ano yung kailangan mong gawin. Alright? Hindi yung high-level idea, you're talking in generalities, trabaho, tapos walang kapupuntahan yung ginagawa. So again, don't take ideation and review of literature for granted. Ipapakita ko rin sa inyo kung paano ba natin yung gagawin. Okay. So, karamihan sa inyo, magtatanong, mga nasa third year, nag-iisip na kayo, paano ba ako pipili ng idea? So paano ba ito ginagawa? So what we just wanna teach you is the fact that there's a systematic process kung paano mag-generate ng idea. This is like one of the and ito yung for the college level ideation. We actually have a webinar focused on college level ideation. So again, focus namin today ay skills. Kung gusto niyo ng sobrang mas malinaw or mas hinimay na discussion, we also have that webinar on our YouTube channel, care of Kuya JP ninyo. So the first thing that you have to keep in mind is that if you're actually gonna perform research in college, very important that you choose a topic that interests you. And then secondly, that will make an impact. So dalawang elements yun. Kailangan gusto nyo. And then secondly, may katuturan. Merong relevance. May importance. Why is it important that you should be interested? Kasi so kung hindi naman kayo interesado, how are you supposed to keep yourself motivated kung hindi nyo naman gusto yung topic? So dito napapasok yung, sino ba yung advisor na pipiliin ko? Ano bang klase ng research yung ginagawa niya? So doon nyo susukatin yung interest ninyo. And then most importantly, you're not just doing research for the heck of doing research. Dapat may purpose yan. So sabi nga kanina nung isang sumagot dun sa ating quick Q&A is to contribute to a body of knowledge. So ibig sabihin, meron kayong iniaambag. Whether it be new learning or whether it be a new solution. So, pag sinabi, sir, hindi po namin paano po namin malalaman kung saan mapupunta yun? Ano po ba yung impact, no? Paano namin malalaman yung relevance? So, it's very important as well that you begin with the end in mind. So, meaning, isang strategy na matuturo namin sa inyo is called mind mapping. So, for example, meron tayong mga students in the health sciences field, ano? So, for example, gusto kong makatulong na mag-come up ng new technologies para mas konting tao na ang magkaroon ng hypertension or magkaroon ng cardiovascular diseases. So, kapag yun yung siguro yung initial motivation mo or idea mo, medyo hindi pa siya focus, no? Kasi mag-prevent yung isipin mo, at the end of it, ano ba yung gusto mong ma-deliver? For example, gusto mo mag-develop ng gamot, gusto mo mag-develop ng test para magkaroon ng early detection ng hypertension, for example. So, by doing mind mapping, doon mo maiisip niya, since 1 year lang yung meron ako, perhaps ang pwede kong gawin ay mag-screen ako ng iba't ibang gamot sa mice na mas mura na pwede nating i-apply rin or ibigay sa mga mahihirap, for example. So, that way, magiging actionable. At the end of it, alam mo na, pag natapos mo yung thesis mo, at least meron mag-recommend ng mga lower cost na medication na magiging affordable para sa mga Pilipino na naha-high blood. So again, dapat specific kayo. Ano ba yung endpoint na gusto ninyong ma-achieve? So begin with the end in mind, but talaga, sinabi namin kanina ni Kuya JP nyo, you're gonna start with an idea, posibleng yung maging outcome nun ay hindi kung ano yung inaasahan ninyo. So that's also like one very important aspect of doing research. You start with an idea, but then keep in mind yung resulta pwedeng hindi yung inaasahan nyo. Alright? And hindi nyo rin dapat i-force na yung outcome ay kung ano yung inaasahan nyo. Kasi that beats the purpose of doing. Okay, so kung mas nahihirapan pa kayo, parang, sir, kung gusto ko pong makakontribute sa bansa, saan po ba ako hahanap ng topic? So dito naman papasok yung guidance na binibigyan ng Department of Science and Technology in the form of our Harmonized National Research and Development Agenda. So every 5 years, they are rolling out. Ano ba yung mga focus areas na dire-recommend nila na pwede kayo mag-perform na research na makakasigurado kayo na ito yung mga kailangan ng bansa. So kung hindi kayo makapag-isip on your own, you can actually look at like these areas of or strategic focus areas na ibinibigay ng ating halaan. Binuo rin ng mga research and development scientists ng DOST. So ito ay hindi lang nila hinugot sa kung saan-saan. Ito po ay galing sa mga kumbaga pain points or challenge areas ng bansa na kailangan nila ng tulong. Alright? So punta kayo dyan sa website ng DOST. Alright. So, again, when it comes to ideation, preparation is very important. So meaning, kapag nag-iisip ba kayo ng thesis na gagawin nyo rin, there's a number of aspects that you have to consider. So una-una yung skill level, no? So kung kayo nasa college level at medyo baguhan pa kayo sa field nyo, hindi naman, huwag kayong okay lang naman kung kaya nyo, pero hindi kayo inaasahan na mag-come up kayo ng Nobel Prize winning na thesis. So again, kung ano yung gagawin nyo sa college, i-akma nyo rin sa inyong kakayahan. Kasi baka naman din, sobrang taas ng level lang sila na kailangan, ang ginawa nyo lang, pumunta kayo sa consultant at pinagawa nyo yung thesis nyo. So that beats the purpose, hindi naman kayo matututo nun. Secondly, resources. Kapag meron kayong kailangan ng mga machinery na wala naman sa Pilipinas, ay huwag nyo rin ita-target yon. So again, dapat angkop sa skills, angkop sa gamit na meron kayo. And then third is the context. Bakit nyo ba ginagawa yung research nyo? For example, if I am to perform environmental quality analysis kung madumi pa ba yung ilog doon sa lugar namin, doon mo makikita na I'm doing this to inform my locality na wag po kayo magtapon ng basura dyan kasi ganito nakadumi yung tubig. So ganun yun. So dapat may konteksto rin. Para saan ba? Sino ba yung stakeholder? Sino ba yung makikinabang kapag nagawa niyo yung research niyo na yun? So ilang to sa mga elements that you have to consider when you're coming up with ideas. Alright? So dapat alam nyo kung sino yung makikinabang at most importantly, kaya nyo bang gawin? Alright. So, paano kayo makaka-identify ng ideas na mga problema at saka ng pain points? So, di ba pag nakipag-marites kayo, usually mga problema ang pinag-uusapan dyan. So, pwede makipag-marites rin kayo in the context of science. Pag tumingin kayo sa inyong locality, ano ba yung nakikita niyong kakulangan? Ano yung nakikita niyong problema? And if you start by asking those questions, more likely you'll be able to come up with ideas. No? So, again, be observant, be curious, and be inquisitive. Okay rin naman na mag-isip kayo ng idea na kumbaga pang-abroad yung context, pero mas mahihirapan kasi kayong gawin nun. Kasi hindi nyo maintindihan talaga your locality. Start by identifying gaps in the system and then doon kayo magsimula. Alright? And what you can also do, lalo pa if you're coming up with ideas na magbe-benefit yung locality ninyo, you can interview people. You can interview yung mga nakaka-experience ng challenge or ng problem. You can interview local experts. So for example, nakikita po namin parang polluted na po yung ilog dito because of yung improper waste management. Pwede kayong pumunta sa DNR office ninyo, sa inyong kapitolyo or sa inyong city hall na ano po ba yung meron po ba So kapag nakakuha kayo ng mga information na yun, doon kayo mas magkakaroon ng mas focused na idea. So again, hindi yung ideation nilang yung iisipin ko tas yun na. You have to do research to refine the idea. So again, that's the term, refine the idea to make it a clearly stated and focused one. So, kumbaga sinasala at pinapalinis pa ninyo yung idea ninyo para klarong-klaro siya. Alam nyo kung ano ang tanong na kailangan nyo sagutin at alam nyo kung ano kailangan nyo gawin. Alright. At dito na papasok ko yung konsepto ng design thinking process. So, an approach kung paano kayo makaka-come up ng idea and may implement yung idea nyo in such a way na mabilis yung mababalidate. So, for example, ito kasing design thinking process, this is customer focus, for example. So, meaning, when you're trying to come up with ideas to solve a problem, what you do first is you talk to your target audience. So, for example, kung meron kayong local farming communities and nagkakaroon ng peste yung mga pananim nila, ang una nyo gagawin ay hindi mo na yung mag-iisip agad ako. Pupunta ako doon sa farmer, sasabihin ko, ito yung solution na kailangan nyo. That's not the approach. Ano po ba ang nagiging problema or diseases ng inyong mga plants? So you talk to them to better understand their challenges or their problem. And kung ano man yung makuha nyo from that interview, that's when you come up with an idea or a design of a solution. So yun yung design thinking process na ginagawa natin. So it is targeting a specific need. Hindi yung pupunta kayo doon, hindi nyo naintindihan kung ano yung problema nila and then may solution na agad kayo. So this is an example of an approach on how you can actually generate ideas that are relevant or meron talagang impact. You ask questions and then you formulate your idea. All right? Okay. May tanong ba kayo so far? Nakaka-relate ba kayo dun sa mga sinabi namin about sa pag-iisip ng idea? Kasi usually kasi yung intimidation or na paano po namin malalaman na may kahalagahan yung idea na gagawin? And minsan kasi ang nangyayari sa thesis, kung ano yung project ng advisor, yun na yung ipapagawa. So minsan hindi rin klaro sa inyo na gagawin ko yung part ng project na yun yung thesis ko. Pero in an ideal case, if you really are after yung essential skills na dapat matutunan sa pag-perform ng scientific research, usually you are involved in the identification of the problem, understanding kung ano ba yung pain points, and then and your idea is essentially based on those problems. Bihira yung nakaka-come up ng idea na hindi nagsisimula sa problema, no? Meron po ba sa inyo may tanong before we move on dun sa technicalities ng ideation? Okay, may nagtanong sa YouTube. Is it necessary to make the thesis or research original and unique? Ma-elaborate po sana. Thank you. So yung konteksto kasi, so it depends. So modification, for example, there's an established body of knowledge or technology. What you did was you recognize na, ay medyo ito, limited yung function. You change a small aspect of it. That form of modification, in a way, is already original. Kasi you saw a problem and you improved upon it and it made an impact. So, ang mahirap kasi sa ideation is yung recognition of originality. So, sinabi kasi originality, hindi ibig sabihin nun, lahat ng elements ng gagawin mo, ikaw lang nakaisip.
Bagong-bago.
100 components yan, hindi ibig sabihin nun, lahat ng 100 components, ikaw lang nakaisip. Posibleng 90% of your idea is based on something that was done before, but then the 10% makes the entire concept original. Or yung application original, or yung impact niya original. So, ganun yun. So, ang gusto ko din ituro sa inyo is, again, kaya ko tinakal yung creation, modification, and synthesis. Sa panahon ngayon, bihira na yung creation level, yung all original creation. Yung kasabihan nila na we stand on the shoulders of giants, totoo yun. Kasi kung ano sa sciences, those are laying on what our ancestors have done, what our predecessors have done. So, napakabihira na ngayon ng all original. So again, kahit modifications or synthesis, yung natutunan nitong isang group or natutunan nitong isang scientist na to, pareha silang original lang ginawa. Pag pinagsama nyo, yung outcome nun, original pa rin. So, posibleng gano'n. So again, dapat yung understanding nyo what's original or not, dapat klarong-klaro yun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think sir, things that it's very important to discuss with your thesis advisor. No? So kung may naisip kayo na topic, you can approach your thesis supervisor if this is original or if this is worth doing. Kasi he can help you with the ideation part.
Yes. All right. Okay. So, gaya na sinabi ko kanina, iterative process, no? So, pag nakaisip ka ng idea, typically, hindi yung sa unang iteration yan, hindi pa yan good idea. Kasi usually, it's very broad. So, what you're intending to do when you're ideating is, from a broad area of interest, you have to be able to translate it or convert it into something that is specific and actionable. Sobrang klaro yung subject na ano ba talaga yung aaralin mo within a year. And then most especially, pag sinabi natin focus na yung idea, na kumbaga na down select mo na yung questions mo na sasagutin over yung 1-year period mo na perform ng thesis, usually 2 to 3 questions lang yan eh. Ito yung tinatawag na natin na objective, no, sa thesis. What are my main objectives? Yan yung sinasabi dyan na yung objectives na yon, those are actually going to answer yung main research questions that you have. And kaya sinabi namin ni Kuya JP sa simula, hindi mo pa alam kung ano yung mga questions na yon and how do you come up with those specific questions of the literature. You have to understand ano na ba yung nagawa sa field of study na to. Alright? So, medyo paulit-ulit ako ng word since kanina, dapat yung idea is clear, actionable, and relevant. Alright. So, deductive reasoning is key. So again, from broad, you are actually coming up with something that is focused. So again, specific, you have to state the specific problem or pain point that you're addressing. And then most especially, when you're designing your study, it should be based on, your plan should be commensurate doon sa and most especially oras, what's doable within 10 months. Again, importante yung tatandaan nyo yan sa college level. Ano lang yung kaya kong gawin within 10 months. Alright? And then ano yung intended outcome. Alright, so for example, this is like a more chemistry focus or materials focus example. So for example, ako, thesis student ako, 3rd year na ako, and then interested ako sa pag-apply ng material science knowledge ko, but then gusto kong makaisip rin ng application sa medical field. So, for example, itong ideator na to, I'm bringing myself back siguro sa 3rd year self ko. Situation says that I synthesize gold nanoparticles on graphene. So, gaya ng example na ginamit ko kanina. Meron ako mga nabasa na several studies na nagsasabi yung gold nanoparticles daw have medicinal applications such as cancer treatment. So, ang tanong ko nun, can my materials be used for the same applications? No? So medyo napaka-broad pa niyan kasi gold nanoparticles on graphene and then medical applications such as cancer treatment. So dun sa pagkaka-state ko nung aking idea na yun, hindi pa rin klaro sa akin anong gagawin ko. Anong klase ng gold nanoparticle ang gagawin ko? Kung medical applications sa cancer, ang daming klase ng cancer cells. Again, sa simula, hindi pa klaro yan. So what do you have to do? You have to refine your idea. So meaning, kailangan mo magbasa pa sa literature and most especially, you have to collaborate. You have to keep discussing your ideas with other people to get other people's perspective. That is also an effective mechanism to come up with a clearly stated and focused idea. Kailangan, nadidiscuss nyo yan sa mga kasamahan nyo. Kasi they might be able to offer something na matutulungan kayo na ma-focus ang inyong idea. So for example, itong exchange na to, yung kaibigan ko na may interest sa parehas na area, nagsabi siya, so nakabasa daw siya that gold nanoparticles are potent anti-cancer agents. But then ang nabasa niya specifically sa pag-aaral ay kapag daw uniform yung size at yung shape ng gold nanoparticles, mas effective yung anti-cancer ang problema daw, when it comes to gold nanoparticles as anti-cancer, mahal siya. Kasi mahirap yung synthesis, mahal yung materials na ginagamit. So yun yung pain point. Pwede man natin tong gawin, mahirap siyang gawing mura or affordable because mahal ang materials, mahirap yung proseso. And then, nung diniscuss naman sa isang groupmate, ang sabi ng isang groupmate, ay may nabasa naman siyang method na yung daw pag-develop ng silver nanoparticles into size and shape uniform ay nagawa using a method na mild at saka mura. So since ang naisip naman itong isa, so since yung chemistry ng silver at saka ng gold ang strategy nila to come up with cheap and affordable method ng pag-produce ng size and shape control gold nanoparticles. So ano ba yung ginawa nitong dalawang to? Nagbasa sila. So they reviewed the literature, and based on what they learned from the literature, they combined their ideas to come up with a new study. So yung gusto namin ituro kay JP nyo is the fact that for you to refine your idea, you have to perform high quality review of literature. Hindi nyo marirefine yung idea nyo na iisipin nyo lang ng iisipin. You have to read up ano ba yung state of the art studies sa field. So guys, nasabi namin, yung approach na to, hindi kayo makaka-come up na something all original kasi you are trying to get inspiration from the work of others. And ito yung more likely gagawin nyo sa thesis. You have an initial idea. To bring it to focus, you have to keep reading, and reading. And so dito na din papasok yung fact na usually ang ginagawa ng mga estudyante saka lang nagbabasa ng literature kapag magsusulat na ng thesis. Mali yun. Dapat yung review of literature ginagawa nyo sa ideation stage pa lang. And actually, I will jump the gun. Yung review of literature, gagawin nyo siya sa lahat ng steps ng research process. Experimental design, kailangan niya magbasa ng literature. Experimentation and data analysis, most especially to understand the data, kailangan niya magbasa ng related literature. Pag-draw ng conclusion, kailangan niya rin magbasa ng review of literature. And most especially sa writing, kailangan niya magbasa ng review of literature. So hindi ito yung third step. Review of literature is involved in all of the steps of the research process. Ayan. Sino dito sa iyo nakaka-relate dyan? Akala sa writing lang kailangan. Ako nakaka-relate ako. Kasi nung thesis days, hindi ko siya diba? Yan, pero maintindihan nyo, if you're practicing research, sa totoo lang po, as a and siguro weeks worth of reading the literature will save you months or years worth of failed experiments. Kasi you can learn a lot from what others did. Posibleng may experiment kang i-design na kung nagbasa ka lang ng mas malala, marirealize mo na, ay hindi ko pala dapat ginawa yan kasi nagawa na to nung ganitong group, hindi gumana. So nakasave kayo ng oras, nakasave kayo ng resources. So again, don't take review of literature for granted. All right. The training ground for formulating research questions. So again, this is a very important skill. So gaya nung sinabi ko kanina, yung unang idea, ay gold nanoparticles, interested ako. Tapos interested ako sa medical field. So paano na-refine yung idea? Nagpalitan ng tanong, yung dalawang collaborators earlier na, oh yeah, I saw this can be done. But then my question is, it is expensive, so how can we solve it? And then yung isa naman, oh, I have seen this in the literature. There's a related chemistry that we can actually apply. So they were able to come up with an idea by asking questions. Ano ba yung pain points? Ayan, so review of literature improve yung quality ng idea to make it to make it focused and in an actionable form. So unang-una, review of literature will help you identify relevant methods that you can adapt. Ano ba yung mga approaches na pwede niyong gawin para ma-answer yung question ninyo? Secondly, the review of literature can also identify failed experiments. So gaya na sinabi ko, hindi nyo na kailangan ulitin yung pagkakamali ng iba kung nabasa nyo naman. So you can learn from others' experiences. And then, the review of literature can help explain yung context ng inyong idea or yung importance nun. So gaya ng usap answer research kung hindi sila nagbasa. So again, kailangan nyo magbasa to refine or to improve your idea. Alright? Okay. Let's skip yata ako. Let's skip ba ako ng... So you were actually, I think most of you were born and raised in the era of, in the age of information, no? So ang maganda nito mga panahon nyo is that you have access, you have better access to information. So punta lang kayo sa internet, you have access to databases, you have access Ayun, punta lang kayo sa Google, makapagbasa na kayo ng journal articles. So panahon namin ni JP, pupunta pa kami sa library at ipapa-xerox, papa-photocopy pa namin yung mga printed journals. But then, though meron kayong access sa literature sa World Wide Web, we also encourage for you to not take for granted yung traditional forms of media. Books, for example. There's a lot of learnings and lessons to be gleaned upon from books. And then prior works such as thesis. So, doon sa mga nasa universities ngayon, if you're working on a project that is an extension of what's been done before, nauna sa inyo. Kasi there, again, you can learn a lot from the results and from the failed experiments or attempts that they were that they had performed. So again, you're saving yourself from the exact same heartaches. Learn from the experiences of others. So medyo paulit-ulit yan kasi hindi siya madaling, actually hindi siya madaling, kumbaga magets, not unless nandun ka na sa thesis process at nakita mo na, ba't ko parang ginawa to, kung nabasa ko naman dati. Alright. And kanina may nagtanong, about IP. So, one non-traditional but very rich source of information, most especially sa mga STEM-related na intellectual property literature. So usually it comes in the form of patents, copyrights, trademarks, and trade secrets. So most especially sa mga STEM students dito, patents. You should learn to read up patents kasi if you're looking for what we call state of the art, so meaning yun yung pinakamataas na level ng quality or performance in a particular field, bihira niyo yung makikita sa academic papers. Kasi usually mga corporate entities ang nagpapaligsahan para to come up with the best technology, and ang unang publication na ginagawa nila is not in the form of a journal article. In the engineering field, or if you're in the medical sciences and you want to figure out what's the best technology for, say, like treating diabetes, for example, you go to the patent literature. Doon nyo rin yan makikita. Kasi nag-uunahan sila na i-protect yung technology na yun.
Exactly.
Again, so, medyo mahirap magbasa ng thesis, but it requires practice. And meron rin kaming webinar like teaching you how to unpack yung mga information na pwede nyo makuha from patents.
Yeah. And there's actually Google Patents.
Yes, there's.
So you can add that to your portfolio.
Yep. And actually, ang maganda sa patents kasi, hindi siya nagre-require ng subscription. Actually, mas may access kayo sa karamihan ng patents kumpara sa mga journal articles. Kasi minsan, if your university or your college does not have subscription, may mga journal articles na hindi accessible sa inyo. But, yung patents, for as long as published na siya, it should be accessible to everyone. Alright? Okay. So once identify nyo na yung topic nyo, yung next step na ng ideation is that you should be able to identify yung goals or yung outcome. Research questions. Pag kinonduct nyo yung study nyo, ano ba yung mga specific questions or objectives that you're trying to achieve or to answer? So, part of bringing your idea to focus is, again, like I said, formulating research questions. At yung research questions na yan, for example, kung meron kayong tatlo, you're gonna perform the scientific method to understand or to answer all of those questions. So kung tatlo yun, edi tatlong sets ng experiments yung gagawin. At the minimum. So ganun yung process na yun. You have an idea, ito yung topic of my research, hindi doon natatapos yun. You have to formulate specific research gagawin niya, paano ba tayo mag-formulate ng research questions? So, you can state or formulate your research questions in a number of different ways. So, the first of which is, okay, you have to establish a need for addressing the problem, no? So, dito napapasok yung sinasabi namin kanina na pain points. Ano ba talaga yung problema na gusto mong i-resolve? Second, you have to highlight the ideal state versus the current state. So, for example, if I'm coming up with a new anti-cancer drug, ano ba yung pinakamaganda ngayon na anti-cancer drug? Ano ba yung pinaka-effective? And how does your solution compare to that? Establishing kung ano ba yung novelty, ano yung bago sa ginagawa mo, ano yung i-improve ng topic mo. So dito na papasok yung clarity of purpose, ano ba yung katuturan ng gagawin mo, ano yung impact nun. And then yung third approach is 5W. So answering the 5W questions, who, what, where, when, and why. So dito na papasok din yung, okay, who am I doing this for? Sino ba yung subject ng aking pag-aaral? Ano yung specific scope that I will cover? Ano yung locality? In the context of locality, am I doing this for the benefit of my locality, pang buong Pilipinas ba to, yung impact? Ayan, this is part of planning the scope of your research. So again, babalik tayo dun sa, meron lang akong 1 year, ano yung kaya kong gawin? Diba? So, i-match nyo yun. So kung ang kaya nyo gawin within 10 months is good for your local university, then yun. Kailangan klaro rin yun. Alright? And then most importantly, when you are actually formulating your research questions, your research questions have to be clear and concise. So meaning, pag nabasa ng iba na hindi experts, yung research questions no, dapat naiintindihan nila. Ang problema din kasi ng mga research students at saka ng mga practitioners, pag or ng problem statement, sila lang din yung nakakaintindi. Alright? So, bakit ba mahalagang naiintindihan ng karamihan at klaro yung pagkaka-deliver ninyo or pagkaka-formulate nyo? Dito na papasok yung konsepto ng pitch. If you talk to non-experts who can support your study, dapat pag dinescribe mo yung study mo in 4 or 5 different sentences, yung tinatawag na elevator pitch, pag pinakawalan mo, i-deliver yun within 1 to 2 minutes, dapat naiintindihan nila. And within that period of time, it's either makaka-decide sila na, this is interesting, I will support or I will fund that project. So again, you have to clearly and problem statement or your research project's objectives. Alright, so for example, ito yung gusto ko ding ibahagi sa inyo. Yung iba sa inyo na nasa med field, I'm interested in anti-cancer research. That is like one of the broadest possible idea that like one can come up with for a thesis project. But then, upon doing literature research and discussing ano ba yung pwede ko lang gawin within 1 year, a possible outcome of that or refinement of that idea could be that, okay, within 1 year, I will develop a cost-effective and size-uniform gold nanoparticle material that can be your drug in mice. So doon mo makikita, within just that particular idea, alam mo na ay focus kasi size uniform gold nanoparticles na mura at gagamitin mo sa anti-cancer studies sa daga. And then again, this is like an example of a clear and actionable idea. All right? So, eto, mabilis natin papasadahan yung iba't ibang mga kumbaga elements ng pag-formulate ng inyong research idea. So dito papasok yung mga so unang-una, yung conceptual framework. So sino sa inyo dito, by the way, ang nakapagsulat na ng research proposal or thesis proposal? So yung mga third year, siguro you're in the process of doing that. Yung mga nasa fourth year, baka nagawa nyo na ito. So typically, once you have come up with the research idea, you have to write a research proposal at yun yung ipopresent nyo sa panel ninyo. No? Yung first part typically of a research proposal is what we call a conceptual framework. So typically, ito ipinapasok natin sa introduction. So ano ba yung mga nasa conceptual framework dati? So unang-una, you have to talk about your proposed work. So the purpose, so the why. And then secondly, dito din sa conceptual framework, you have to highlight literature information that can help define the problem, and then the importance of it, the purpose of for which you are doing the study. And then, dun sa conceptual framework, di ba, yung first part is, kumbaga yung high-level pitch. Ito yung summary ito yung area na gusto kong i-explore. Yung middle part nito conceptual framework, you are going to summon or you're going to allude to kung ano yung mga natutunan mo sa review of literature. So ano ba yung mga ano na yung progress sa area na yun based sa reading of literature. And then secondly, kailangan mong i-highlight. So since ito na yung mga nagawa, ito yung mga hindi pa nagagawa. At ito yung bago. Ito yung posibleng bago or improvement dito sa field na yun. So para ma-claim mo ng idea mo ay bago o hindi, ibabasa mo yan sa review of literature. Hindi mo sasabihin na feeling ko bago to. Hindi ganun yun. Sabihin nyo, bago to kasi yung pinakamagandang version nitong technology nito, hanggang dito lang yung kaya. So, dito sa study ko, ito yung mga improvements na gagawin ko and possibly, i-improve niya yung performance. So, yung meron kayo body of work. So, meaning yung naaprubahan na ng field. And then yung last part, typically, ng inyong conceptual framework is, ito yung field na aralin ko, ito yung basehan sa literature kung ano na ba yung nagawa at hindi pa nagawa. And then yung last part ng conceptual framework nyo is you are stating your hypothesis. Ano ba yung objectives ng study ninyo? So dito na papasok. Ito yung, so dito in this research that I will perform, these are the 3 main questions that I am intending to answer. Ayan. So ito yung example. So proposed work, so the synthesis of cheap and size. Ultimately, the goal is to address challenges in developing economic, so meaning cheap and efficient anti-cancer drugs. And then, kasunod nun, ipapasok nyo. Several studies are claiming that size uniform and shape uniform transition methods are this effective. And the recent studies that said that there are methods that can make this economical. And then yung hypothesis nyo, so this project proposes or will explore if size uniform gold nanoparticles can be more effective anti-cancer drugs. It will also explore if the use of cheap organic templates can. So dun pa lang sa, kumbaga, 3 or 4 paragraph nyo na conceptual framework, magiging klaro na yung ano ba yung problem na gusto nyo i-solve, anong basehan nyo sa inyong solution, and ano talaga specifically yung gagawin nyo. So dito, dalawa yung main objectives. Size uniformity to affect like anti-cancer properties, and then secondly, ano yung strategies na gagawin nyo to make the process or the synthesis process cheap and efficient. Alright. So, yung isang mahalagang element rin ng pag-come up ng idea is yung relevance, yung impact. Lagi natin sinasabi yan. Bukod sa clear and actionable, napakita natin doing this. Why is this very important? So, typically, ang ginagawa natin dyan is, kung meron kayong dalawa o tatlong main objectives, what you do is, you unpack yung importance ng pagsagot sa mga question na yun sa tinatawag natin justification or significance of the study. So, for example, why is it important to come up with, say, like a cheap and economical way of producing those materials? So, ang gagawin nyo dyan is, i-restate nyo yan just sa justification or relevance of the study, and then, to highlight the importance, kailangan nyo na namang magbasa sa literature. Bakit ba mahalaga? The current price of gold nanoparticles is, for example, 10,000 pesos per gram. Ganoon. So if you have that information from a published piece of literature, that's your basis for claiming na though these can work, napakamahal niya. So therefore, if this research study that you will perform sa college, if it can reduce the cost of these these anti-cancer drugs by about half, bringing it down to 5,000 pesos per gram, ganito yung impact. Mas maraming tao ang makakagamit nito kasi mas mura siya. And that can be achieved through the study sa anti-cancer properties naman, pwede kayo mag-mention na, why am I studying gold nanoparticles for anti-cancer treatment? You can actually look for pieces of literature that would give statistics about how many women in the Philippines die of breast cancer every year. You can start there. And then you can then relate na, okay, are there studies about gold nanoparticles na documented showing that, hey, gold nanoparticles has this efficacy rate in treating breast cancer, this type of so that's actually how you highlight yung importance ng study. Ano ba yung nagawa na ng iba that you can use to make such claim. So pag nag-claim kayo that this is better, this is an improvement, hindi yun yung parang feeling ko lang. Walang ganon. So dapat yung claims ninyo of the relevance should also be based on verifiable information. Alright? Ang dami kong nakikita mga studies, siguro high school at sa college rin na usually parang yung test rin nila ng improvement is in the form na reading more sa literature. Kasi pag nakita nyo, paano ba nila mini-measure yung impact ng study na kaparehas ng inyo, you can adapt the exact same method. No? Hindi nyo kailangan mag-invento ng bagong approach, but then by basing your strategy on established and peer and field and an approach na recognize sa field, mas magmumukhang credible at saka factual lang inyong pag-claim ng impact. And that's how you write it up sa justification sa proposal. Why is this important? Relevance of the study. So again, hindi base yan din. All right. So and then yan, I went up ahead. I jumped the gun. Nagdire-diretso na ako. So again, justification, elaborate the hypothesis, allude to proofs in the literature, and then you emphasize the importance of what you're doing or of your idea. So ito yung example. So for example, yung unang hypothesis, so this study aims to develop size uniform gold nanoparticles as potentially high efficacy anti-cancer drugs. Naulit pa yung anti-cancer na may typo error pa tayo. And so what you do, literature on conventional wisdom. Ano na ba yung pinaniniwalaan base doon sa mga naunang study? Mention studies or information that suggests that yung nanoparticle size and shape have an impact on anti-cancer properties, and then highlight yung challenges. Ano pa ba yung kulang? Ano pa yung mahirap na aspect ng pag-develop ng, or ano pa yung kakulangan sa performance ng gold nanoparticles when it comes to anti-cancer property? And then again, based on that, you reiterate, you highlight the importance of the study or that of answering that specific research question. Right? And this is another example. So like I said, you have to highlight the importance of answering each question. All right. So again, literature review will help you frame your research questions clearly, concisely, and in a more focused approach. Okay. Medyo dense yun. Medyo ang daming laman nung ating diniscuss doon sa aspect na yun on how you can actually formulate your research question, and most importantly, highlight your relevance. Do you have questions so far? Makikita, sa kada step na ginagawa nyo, you have to base it on the review of literature. Okay? Yung idea, you can come up with a plan on how to explore that by reading up the literature. Para ma-highlight nyo yung importance ng inyong idea, you have to review the literature as well. So wala ditong point na feeling ko lang. So ito, inuulit ko to sa inyo kasi ito yung madalas naming nakikita. Na based on impression and not based on verifiable information.
Yeah. At ito yung mga questions na mag-come up sa thesis defense nyo. Yung opponent or yung thesis reviewer nyo, will ask you, ano yung basehan mo on your specific choices to sa thesis, and then you should be able to produce a concrete written literature on when you did a certain aspect of your thesis. So, kailangan ituloy nyo yan, and you should be able to be to show it dun sa panel reviewers nyo.
Yes. So ito yung so kung mapapansin niyo, hindi kami nag-focus ni JP sa technicalities kasi we have separate webinars on that. As in yung more textbook. Ano ba talaga yung practical aspect nito? Na paano ba talaga 'to ginagawa? Na again, nung high school ako, kung paano ako nag-ideate is very different from how I am doing it now. Mas marami akong pagbabasa. Actually, mas marami akong pagbabasa kumpara sa pag-iisip. Ayun. So, what we will also do is we will be sharing with you yung link doon sa portfolio namin of training courses when it comes to ideation all the way to proposal writing. Kasi those are very important exercises. So again, but then ang emphasis natin today is yung essential skills, practical aspects, and yung kung ano ba talaga kung paano talaga siya ginagawa sa pang-araw-araw na buhay na basa ng basa kasi that's gonna keep you in check. Nakafocus pa ba yung ginagawa mo? Are you on the right track? Yun bang ginagagawin mo, yung nakaplano mo bang experiment, yun ba dapat yung gagawin mo? So again, you can refine all these by reading. Again, hindi lang sa dulo, hindi ka pa magsusulat ng thesis saka ka lang magbabasa. Sa simula pa lang, kailangan nyo magbasa. Alright?
Yep.
Okay, so at this point, we're gonna transition the design of your study. Dito kayo, mas marami kayo matututunan technicalities galing sa inyong Kuya JP. Alright, so once you have, so this is a part na first, once you formulate the idea and your research questions, how do you translate it into a study design? How do you design your experiments to answer your research questions? All right, JP?
Wait, let me just pull up my slides. Ayan, kita na ba? Okay. So, picking up from what Kuya Jeff left off, there's a thesis where you are experiments in data collection. And by the way, I'll introduce myself first. My name is JP Onya. I'm one of the core members of the Filipino Science Hub. I'm a Pinoy scientist based here in Finland. And like Kuya Jeff, I am a chemist by training, and we both graduated from UP Los Baños, and now I'm in Finland doing research work. But before that, I gained my master's degree and my PhD degree here, which is still going on. But I'm working right now on the field of electrochemistry, and specifically developing electrochemical sensors. So that's my research interest, and also analytical chemistry. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the experimental design. Sa pag-carry out natin ng research project natin at the college level. So, before anything else, so sa side track lang ako dun sa types of quantitative research para lang na-set ko yung context na discuss ko today, because there are different kinds of quantitative research. There's descriptive research, correlational research, experimental research, and quasi-experimental. So, these are descriptive research. I have a give examples of each of these, no? But I would just like to define each one, starting with descriptive research. So, yung descriptive research, as the name suggests, only describes No, it merely presents existing conditions and characteristics of a certain research topic. So one example of that would be I just took it from the Philippine Journal of Science. So this research was carried out in Mindanao, and they studied the distribution and species richness of this adult odonata species of adult odonata in Tagalog to today, no, in urban wetlands in Mindanao. So ito yung species na na-discover nila. So basically, they just presented what is out there, no? And this is just species identification in different areas in Tagum City, Mindanao. So nakikita natin sa title pa lang, meron ng context, meron ng demarcation kung saan kinary out yung research. So dito makikita natin na pinakita nila in listing fashion kung ano yung mga species present dun sa sites, kung gaano karami, and kung ano yung distribution. No? So, makikita natin na yung research pala, hindi lang siya yung mga experimental or computational. Pwede ang research pala is descriptive lang. No? So, makikita natin na I can just set the parameters of what is out there in order for other research to build upon. So, yun yung descriptive research. You are really describing and just presenting what is out there. So, the second type of research is correlational research. So, dito na tayo mag-identify ng mga relationship between two variables na controls or manipulation done. So, you have a data set and you are out there to see if there is relationship or correlation between different variables. So, one example of this is, the title here is Predictors of Occupational Health Outcomes of Call Centers from Selected Companies in Cebu. So, kinuha dito sa Philippine Journal of Science. So, nag-create sila ng sample from different BPO companies sa Cebu at sa Manila. And they handed out survey forms para makita kung ano yung mga health issues na kinakaharap ng mga employees in call centers. So ito yung mga nakuha nila. And then we try to group this in terms of age. There's also the sex. So makikita natin na present nila yung different health outcomes and how it varies between age groups. So makikita natin yung p-value dito. So that indicates if there is significant differences, let's say, just sa frequent errors, kung sino yung madalas magkamali. So, yung occurrence ng errors sa trabaho varies among age groups. So, makikita natin na yung pinakamarami dito ay mas mga pinakabata pa. So, yung pag-value yung pinakabata pa, di ba? So, significant value, so yung sabihin the differences between age groups in terms of frequent errors is significant. So we are establishing correlation, but we are not imposing any controls on our subjects. So we are really just seeking out if there is a relationship, let's say, between age groups and different forms of health outcomes or health issues. Okay. Another type of research is experimental research. So dito na tayo focus sa discussion natin today. Because here, we are out to determine if there is causal relationship between variables. So meron tayong tinatawag na independent variables, yung mga constraints na i-impose natin, and independent variables. So ano yung outcome ng mga controls na binigay natin. So, bigyan ko ng example na recently Jeff kanina. So, ito yung certain type of dye using this active ingredient on a fixed support, which is graphene oxide. So, makikita natin ito yung dye. So, colored siya, colored na mixture siya. And when you put your adsorbent na tinatawag, so yung ito, iron oxide, graphene oxide composite. So ito yung mga particles na nakikita dyan. So, ma-absorb niya or ma-adsorb niya yung dye na to in order to remove it from, let's say, a water sample. So, important siya for waste treatment. So, makikita natin na very effective yung paggamit natin itong material na to in order to extract or eliminate this type of dye sa, let's say, water streams, sa rivers, or sa bodies of water natin. And this study was carried out at the Institute of Chemistry by our good friend, Dr. Joanna Aguila. Okay. So makikita natin that there's certain controls on this study, specifically the concentration of this material, this iron oxide on graphene oxide composite. So, and how it compares with other adsorbent types. So makikita natin na ito yung results nila. And then ito yung absorption capacity as compared to other materials. And the way we determined the effectivity of extraction or absorption of those dye as kasi nga colored sample siya, so iris lang, so spectroscopy. So makikita natin na yung starting material is magnesium absorbance, and then when you put your controls, different concentrations of the adsorbent, so makikita natin na bumababa yung adsorption. So that is one example of experimental research. You are imposing a control and you are measuring the outcomes. So meron fourth type of quantitative research, which is quasi-experimental. And this investigates a causal relationship between variables, pero wala kang control dun sa assignment ng experimental subjects to treatment groups. So, existing na yung experimental subjects or groups ng study, pero nag-establish ka ng causal relationship. And I have this example right here. So, you know, makikita mo natin dito yung epekto ng diabetes intervention program sa isang locality sa Southern Philippines. I think isa Davao siya. So, nagpunta yung mga medical personnel and they carried out using intervention programs dun sa locals, and then measured the outcome. So, makikita natin kasi experimental siya because existing na yung treatment groups na yun. And in this case, yung mga diabetes patients on that certain rural community. So, wala silang controls on which group sa assignment ng mga groups dun sa study nila. So makikita natin na to carry out to perform an intervention or control or manipulation, and then we measured the outcome. So that is quasi-experimental research. But for today, we are focusing on the experimental research side of things, and the experimental design of this type of research is the process of organizing the experiments to ensure that the right amount of data and the type of data is available to answer the research question as clearly and as efficiently as possible. And babalik tayo dun sa present ni Dr. kanina, where we came up a research question from a broad research idea, and we establish specific research aims and objectives to answer that research question. Our experimental design should be able to fulfill those research aims and objectives by way of testing methods or yung mga methodology, instrumentation, analytical techniques that you use to answer those specific objectives. So let me just share an example. So this is part of the research training that we made for RU, for Research University. So ito naman is a pet project from folks at the UP Los Baños, where they're preparing carboxymethyl cellulose coatings prepared from nata de coco. So nag-extract sila ng carboxymethyl cellulose from nata de coco, and then they tested the effects of formulations of these carboxymethyl cellulose on the post-harvest life of bell peppers. So marami po silang ibang line of fruits like papaya, but this study specifically focused on bell pepper samples. So what we did, so yung mga research aim nila and objectives are specifically stated in the introduction. So most often, so lahat ng context, research context, objectives are stated in the introduction. So you can see that they were out there to synthesize carboxymethyl cellulose. They call it carboxymethyl nata from nata de coco, and then they tested the effects of the coating formulations from that carboxymethyl cellulose on the post-harvest life of bell pepper. So tingnan nila yung how efficient or how effective it is in removing the ripening ng bell pepper fruits. Okay? Matutuloy ako, wait lang. Yan. So, I will research objectives and materials and methods include this specific technique to sort out the great bell pepper fruits for different treatment groups. So meron silang groups of 10 fruits sa first group, and then at certain treatment for that set, and then control group was used for chemical and destructive events. So iba yung analysis na ginawa nila. So there are physical chemical analysis and chemical analysis. Specifically soluble solids. assessing the lightness of these foods, and then pinakita din yung statistical analysis ng effectiveness ng coding formulations na ginawa nila. So then makikita natin for studies of this kind, controls the vocabulary, and then what are the specific methodologies to answer the research question. Yeah. So let me just go back my slide. Again. Stating or designing the experiments in any science investigation, science investigatory project or thesis, it's very important that you state what methodologies were chosen and why they were chosen. Kasi ay yung itatanong sa inyo sa pagdating sa thesis defense, parang kung bakit let's say dun sa example dun sa DAI, bakit spectroscopy? Well, that's very natural kasi nga colored samples, and then bakit spectroscopy and why that specific wavelength, for example. Okay, so you should be able to explain why these methodologies were chosen, and they should be descriptive enough to be reproduced or verified. So when you read articles, journal articles or thesis, so sinusulat nila to the tiniest details on how much, what's the concentration, what is the mass of the active ingredient that they use, and certain conditions in which the project or study or measurements were carried out para ma-produce or ma-verify ng iba on subsequent research projects. So we should train ourselves in these of the language that is being used in writing these experimental parts. Kasi may simple na parang if you don't part yung let's say yung thesis, pag sinusulat mo kasi parang yung technical that. But it's very important to state those details kasi yung determine if your research can be reproducible, or valid.
JP, I think would you mind moving your mic, I think, closer to your mouth? Namamaffle yata. Is it like on?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
yes.
Sorry.
No problem, no problem.
Okay, pero nakasing sinabi dito. Okay. So, as I said, you should be able to these methodologies, what methodologies are chosen, the reason behind the selection, and then you should be able to write why this. You should be able to write the various details and be descriptive enough so that these methodologies can be reproduced or verified. Okay, so in the experimental design, there are steps involved in writing these experimental parts, which is to define research question and variables, as I've said earlier, and then writing the hypothesis. Let's say for that carboxymetric study, so usually explicitly stated for experimental research, but implicitly
we get the sense that these kind of symmetrical formulations aid or has an effect on the post-harvest life of these fruits, let's say the bell peppers. So, hindi siya normally explicitly stated, but for correlational research, very important yun. Kung ano yung test, kung ano yung hypothesis. We can see like statements such as the significance between these treatment groups are significant. So meron kang threshold for test for significance, and doon explicitly talaga nakasulat kung ano yung hypothesis and what is the non-hypothesis. Okay? So the next part is the experimental treatments. Doon na sa example na binili ko. So, kung ano yung mga methodologies to assess let's say for example, the ripening of these fruits in accordance relating to the treatment or the concentration of these fruit coatings na binigay. And then, after that, we design the experimental treatments and then we actually measure or collect the data. Okay? So, itong mga steps na to, we identify this in our previous webinar. This is part of the of Research University. So dito natin actually yung different experimental design for college research. So visit that on our website and our YouTube channel. So dito ko discuss yung different types of experimental treatments like randomized design and stuff. Because in the interest of time, we couldn't discuss it now, but it's good to visit that on our website. Okay. So, part and parcel of the experimental design is the idea of a controlled experiment. So, ito puso yung experimental research, which is you systematically and accurately manipulate the dependent variables. Let's say your dosage, your temperature, or pH, or yung treatments na binigay mo to your experimental subjects. And it should be a controlled experiment. When you say na kapag ang variable mo is dosage, then all of the other factors should be kept constant. No? So the dosage lang yung binabago, and the variables are set constant. And then should precisely measure the variable. So dito sinasabi na dapat yung temperature natin should be the same. So dito na papasok yung analytical skills natin. Dapat should be sure the independent variable should be kept constant also. Kasi yung pag-sure, kasi kung yung result na makukuha mo. And then you should also control any potential source of interferences. For example, if you are able to test the effects of them, yes?
Medyo ano yata, itong dito sa slide na to, parang medyo naging choppy yung audio.
Okay.
Yep. Alright.
So I think it's my internet connection kasi sa
As internet connection, sige.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. May times that it's improving. So siguro nga yung intermittency. But siguro magandang pag-usapan din to, JP, no? Kasi so sa karamihan kasi sa atin, when we were doing laboratory experiments sa high school, yung control experiments. So, bakit ba ito mahalaga para sa mga estudyante natin who are in the session? We are also doing control experiments to make sure that valid yung results natin. So meaning, yun bang positive result na nakukuha mo, is it really because of the phenomenon that you're studying, or is there something in your experiment that is interfering, that is giving you a false positive or a false negative result? So meaning, yung control experiment na dinidiscuss ni Kuya JP nyo is your way to check if the result is true.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we should also control any potential source of interference. So, for example, you are testing for the effect of temperature. From our knowledge of, let's say, water solutions or AQ solutions, temperature also affects pH. No? So dapat, while you are controlling the temperature, pH should also remain constant. Kasi temperature lang yung pinag-aaralan mo, the effect of temperature. So, to be able to control the pH, you should implement probably pH control or use buffer solutions when you're doing temperature studies. So, ito yung mga bagay na dapat iniisip mo at the onset when we're doing the experimental design on what could be the potential source of interferences. Kasi mahirap na ito yung lalabas at the end of the study and then bubulagan na lang sa thesis defense na ay bakit di nyo control yung pH in connection with the temperature study. So stuff like that. So experiment. Yeah, go ahead.
This is something that you have to plan for in the beginning. So
exactly.
You cannot afford na ma-surprise kayo sa thesis defense that, hey, we performed these experiments showing the effect of temperature. And then yung panel, yung isa sa mga panel member nyo magsasabi na, pag binago mo yung temperature dyan sa system na yan, kapag hindi ka nag-add ng buffer, pwede magbago yung pH. So meaning, baka dalawang factors yung nabago mo, dalawang variables yung nabago mo nang hindi mo alam. Pag nalaman mo yan sa dulo na sa defense, wala ka ng time to do it.
Wala na.
Yes.
Yeah. Demerit na yun. Okay?
Ang key term dito, when you think about, so when you think about results, and I think this is a very good talking point. I'm glad that JP actually taught this. When you get results from your experiments, you should not only question bad results. When you get good results, you should also question, are these legitimately good results?
Exactly.
Yep. So, ano yung posibleng false positive? Diba? Kasi sa dulo, sa defense, hindi pwedeng mali. So, when you interrogate your results, you have to think of ano yung controlled experiments na dapat sila yung advisor ko at yung panel ko na, etong effect na to can be correlated to this variable. So, isipin nyo itong tinuturo ni Kuya JP when you're generating.
And don't forget the control sample.
Yes.
So, yung control sample, yun yung sample na you didn't impose or you didn't treat with any of these treatments. So, kasi doon magbabase kung positive ba or negative yung ginawa natin na treatment.
Ito yung tinatawag natin na blank, di ba? Ito yung
blank. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The blank. Okay. I think nakasulat siya sa next slide ko. But,
Ayan.
yeah. Yeah. So, when we are carrying out, because we are talking about like the essential skills for experimental research. So let me just talk about like why these are important. So, why these hard skills need to be developed. I mean, what hard skills can we derive out of this experimental research? So that also spells the importance of doing college thesis. So that you can acquire these hard skills. So one of I only listed here 3, but there could be other hard skills that you can hone. I've stated here the design of experiment, the experimental control, and the analytical techniques. So, dun sa analytical techniques, so given na yan. So, when you're doing experimental research, you are analyzing. So, meron kang measurement na ginagawa sa mga samples mo. And those measurement methods or analytical methods will come in handy pag kinary out mo na yung experiments, di ba? So, in order to guide you on what specific analytical techniques that might be applicable for your thesis project, may I just invite you to visit the Introduction to Analytical Techniques webinar that we did also for RU. And this was delivered by Professor Dinky Boyles, one of our core members at the Filipino Science Hub. And inano niya, nilayout niya in enlightening fashion yung different analytical techniques. So these are mostly chemical techniques, but I think across the board naman, these are widely implemented. Kahit engineering ka, engineering student ka, medical student. So these are routine analytical techniques that you use in your experiment. So just feel free to visit those. And as I've said, you will develop specific hard skills on what different analytical skills that these techniques require for a successful measurement or analysis. So, naturally, made-develop nyo na yun when you're doing the experiments. And another hard skill that I've mentioned is the design of experiments. So, isa itong research strategy na na-invento ni Ronald Fisher, and it is a systematic tool in planning or conducting an experimental campaign so that we can cut down the number of experiments to a minimum number while still keeping the significance or the essence of the whole experimental design. So, binabawasan lang yung data points or the number of experiments para mas maging efficient yung pag-carry out natin ng experiments. And this is very crucial kapag limited lang yung budget natin or yung resources natin or time, if you will, sa research project natin. So, ito naman, diniscuss ni Doc Jeff dun sa experimental design webinar namin for Research University also. And let me just like give you the essence of that. So when you are dealing with different variables, let's say for temperature, for the let's say dosage or formulation, In this case, this is the concentration of the gold precursor and sodium citrate dun sa pag-prepare ng gold nanoparticles. So you have the concentration of your precursor, and then you also have the temperature factor or variable, and then you also have this is the
pH.
The pH, yeah, on the z-axis. So what you do is you take a specific variable, let's say for the temperature, and you take bookend values, no? So you set a minimum and a maximum. Let's say for this example, yung temperature, minimum temperature na pinag-aaralan is 20 degrees Celsius and 70 degrees maximum. And these are sensible values from your literature review. No, so makikita natin na dito lang maglalaro yung temperature na usually ginagamit for preparing gold nanoparticles, for example. And then, in terms of the concentration of the gold precursor, you have all this ratio, you have 0.5 to 2.5 at the constant temperature. And also the pH variable. So here we have pH 4, the lowest pH, versus pH 9. Okay, so makikita natin na when you do this, like bookend values, from which you play around your experimental conditions, so makikita natin na you will only drive it down to a minimum number of 8 experiments. Versus Kuya Jeff.
Yeah, so ito mahalaga tayo, we also recommend sa college level since kulang kayo sa oras.
Exactly.
For design of experiments. So sabi ni Kuya JP nyo, extreme ends of your range. So for example, temperature. Kung based sa literature, research mo, more likely between 20 to 70 degrees Celsius, you do those experiments between 20 to 70.
Yeah.
But what you do is you try to calculate yung minimum number of experiments. In this case, since you have 3 variables, 2 to the third, you get 8. So you get all those 8 bookend cases. Pag pinerform you, what you'll get is essentially an idea of where the optimal part is. Saan ba more likely yung best result?
Mm-hmm. And then doon ka mag-focus at the end.
Doon ka mag-focus. So, consider this when you perform your undergraduate thesis, design of experiment.
Kasi ito, pina-fast track na yung experiments mo. Kasi if you perform like a single variable at a time, let's say, for temperature, you do like different temperatures for different pH. So, dun sa example natin ni Kuya Jeff, parang we cut down the number of experiments from 30 down to 8. So, ang laking savings na nun in terms of time and resources. So, when we do this kind of experiments like this, so you will be able to identify like an optimum experimental condition where you can fine-tune later on your experiment. So makikita natin the optimal experimental conditions where you are getting the highest yield, let's say, is this condition. So you have this concentration at 70 degrees at pH 4, and then doon ka na lang mag-focus in the end. Kung paano yung ma-stretch or ma-maximize yung yield.
Yes.
Okay.
So important points sa pinanggit ni Kuya JP nyo, kapag linear yung approach nyo, one variable at a time, For example, between 20 degrees hanggang 70 degrees, kung every 5 degrees itatackle nyo, how many
data points?
Yes, between concentration, so from 0.5 to 2.5, how many concentration points do you have to tackle there? And then pH pa, from 4 to 9. So, countless of experiments. Sometimes, these experiments would take months or years.
Exactly.
So, itong design of experiment that JP shared with you is a quick approach to identify saan ba posible yung sweet spot. And kapag na-identify nyo na, in this case, condition B, then pwede kayong mag-perform pa ng further experiments.
Further experiments
and
to fine-tune. Yeah. Okay? So that's one hard skill that you'll be able to acquire from design of experiments. And ito, mahalagang skills din siya na madala after graduation when you're doing your own professional careers on how to maximize or optimize the resources with a minimum number of like implementations like this. So
yeah, minimum effort, maximum output.
Exactly.
Work smart, yun pa yung term, working smart and working efficient.
Versus working smart versus working hard. Ganyan. Okay? So let me just jump to the experimental control, which is also one of the hard skills that we can develop with an effective experimental design. So, as I've stated here, the experimental design must ensure that the measurements are reliable and valid to a certain extent while minimizing the research errors and bias. So, what does it mean for our experiments to be, the experimental design to be reliable and valid? So, reliable siya kapag other people will be able to reproduce the results or replicate your experiments. So, kapag ikaw lang yung nakaka-reproduce or nakakapag-produce ng results na yun, hindi siya reliable. Kasi there's something na hindi repeatable or reproducible dun sa ginagawa mo. And that spells the reliability of that experimental design. And with validity, ito yung aspect ng experimental design kung saan validated methods lang yung in-employ mo. Let's say, spectroscopy. So there are standard methods for spectroscopy when you're doing, let's say, UV-vis absorbance experiments. There are specific protocols to be followed. And that is stated in the validated or standard methods, let's say, for UV-vis absorption spectroscopy. So as much as possible,
Yes, JP, idagdag lang din natin. So, di ba, sinabi kanina, ano ba yung purpose ng research? To contribute to a body of knowledge.
Yeah.
So, very important na reliable and valid yung experiments and results nyo. Kasi, if JP came up with a study in Finland, if I follow the same protocols or methods that he used, I should be able to reproduce the results.
Exactly.
Even if I am in Texas or in the US, or even if you are in the Philippines.
Yeah, so, using the same experimental conditions.
Parehas tayo nung ginamit, dapat parehas ang resulta natin.
Yeah. And the only way to be able to achieve that is to use standard methods or valid methods of standard methods of analysis. Doon mo ma-ensure na valid and reliable, repeatable yung experiments. And also, mentioned here that we also aim to minimize the errors and the bias in the experiments. And how do we do that? So, maraming tools na ginagamit to minimize the errors or the bias, and one of those is the randomization of the treatment groups. Let's say, dun sa formulation sa mga fruit coatings na sinabi ko kanina, baka nakaka-apekto yung placement ng mga samples. Let's say, yung one set of treatment group is mas naaarawan ba? Or if you're like doing it outside, so baka mas naaarawan yung isa kaysa dun sa isa. So the only way that you could minimize the errors or bias is to randomize yung positioning ng subjects mo or your samples, so that you eliminate or at least minimize those errors or bias in the experiment. And of course, a control group must be maintained. Yung nga sinasabi natin na blank samples na hindi naka-receive ng any treatment or manipulation, because dun may babase yung positive or negative yung outcome ng treatment. Okay? So, this experimental control is a hard skill that you can develop through time, and it's a very your thesis, your college thesis is a good training ground for that, where you can practice experimental control and then learn from this and carry these skills when you graduate from the university. Okay? So, pagdating naman dun sa paghahanap ng available research methods, so you take your cue from your literature review. So, kaya napaka-importante nung litrev sa sa college thesis, kasi doon mo makikita kung ano ba yung research methods at your disposal. So, one tip for this is to look at the library dun sa mga past na thesis dun sa department nyo where you're doing your thesis. So, tingnan mo kung ano yung available na analytical methods or tools na nandoon sa department mo, sa laboratories. Kasi it might be so that the personnel or the instrument is still working and pwede pa siyang gamitin for your purposes. So, ask around, ask your supervisors, ask your laboratory technicians if these are still available, or kung hindi na. Kasi baka on paper, sinabi mo na, okay, yung gagamitin ko dito is ICP-OES or yung inductively coupled plasma spectroscopy, absorption spectroscopy, pero wala naman pala nun sa department nyo. Pupunta ka pa sa ibang let's say sa ibang facility for that. Pero pwede naman pala na let's say UVS lang or AES, plain AES ang gamitin. So you should do your homework first on what research methods are available. Kasi part to nung pag-formulate mo ng research proposal. And later on, part nung magiging portfolio nung ano mo, nung thesis mo. And then kung wala naman yung hindi available yung analytical methods or tools sa university mo and you still want to pursue that, kasi kailangan kasi di ba standard methods. So you might want to search your immediate locality or nearby provinces where your instrumentation might be available. So you can search, let's say, kunyari, taga Laguna ka lang, and look at the University of the Philippines Los Baños website na okay, meron palang ICP-OES dun sa, let's say, sa Institute of Chemistry. So, pwede kang mag-pitch ng, let's say, collaboration, let's say, with the Institute of Chemistry, on the context of your research project. So, meron kang research proposal na dinraft, and then sabihin mo lang na, okay, to be able to perform or perform this research, kailangan ko yung, let's say, ICP-OES. And then if you can help with that, kasi you can just like write an email to professors or research groups in that university na baka pwede kang tulungan. And that's the power of inquiry, kasi you might not know what help might be available for you. So, huwag tayong mahihiya na to inquire, because sabi nga nila, ask and then you will receive. So, kasi there are also research extension programs that universities offer for people outside the university. And that might be helpful for you kung hindi available yung analytical methods dun sa university mo. Okay?
Yeah. So, nabanggit natin kanina nung simula yung constraints, ano, that if we have ideas, naiisip natin, ay, wag na tong idea na to kasi wala tayong gamit or hindi tayo expert. Yung sinasabi ni Kuya JP nyo, you can collaborate. You can approach experts. You can approach facilities who have the resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pero be prudent naman dun sa pagtatanong nyo, kasi ang natin sa inyo is research proposal. Kung saan mo ba siya gagamitin? Kasi dapat may value din yung pagpapagamit namin ng facility sa inyo. Kasi kung medyo outrageous naman yung mga gusto nyong i-achieve, so baka hindi rin kayo pagbigyan. So make sure that you have a sound research proposal at your disposal in order to pitch these inquiry dun sa mga different universities or facilities dun sa local area nyo.
Yeah, pag nag-approach kayo ng facilities at saka ng universities for collaboration, ang baon nyo po ay proposal, hindi pangarap.
Mm-hmm. So, yun ang inano namin dito, na ang armas mo is research proposal, and yes, that might spell a yes or a no dun sa request nyo.
And your proposal is your way of showing them the impact or the relevance of your study. Kaya kung napansin nyo kanina, we also spend some time on how to clearly state your idea and justify ano ba yung relevance ng study. Alright?
Yeah. So, itong third point na nilagay ko is ito na yung ano natin, parang worst case scenario, or when things get really tight at parang wala ka. Although, ang first ano mo talaga, priority mo is to use standard methods and available analytical techniques sa university mo. And sometimes, you should aim for that para din mabawasan yung stress mo in the end. Kasi when you look in the internet for alternative methods for analysis or yung mga ad hoc methods na in-house mo na dinevelop, so most often than not, ang daming loopholes niyan. So, kung ikaw yung magde-develop ng sarili mong methods, let's say, okay, ang ginamit ko lang for colorimetric test ay something that I found in the internet using my phone, ganyan. It might work for high school projects kasi nga limited din yung resources nila. But for college research or college thesis, mas specialized na to. And most often than not, available naman din yung mga analytical tools and methods. So make sure to prioritize those first. Okay? And if those analytical methods are not available in university, then that's the time that you look for other universities before considering these alternative methods for analysis. Although I don't tell you off for these alternative methods because there's also value in that, but prioritize first standard methods of analysis. Okay, so time check lang. Anong time na, Doc Jeff?
It's almost 1 p.m.
Almost 1 p.m. So, papasadahan ko na lang to. So, aside from the hard skills, we also have soft skills that we can develop for in coming up with this experimental design. So, nandiyan na yung analytical thinking skills kasi nga you have the research question and then you formulate the research objectives upon that, and then yung experimental design mo should answer naman the experimental the research objectives one by one. So yung made-develop mo dito is the analytical thinking skills in improving that your choice of analytical methods or your experimental design is sound and logical enough to answer or fulfill your research objectives. And that takes a lot of logical thinking, problem solving, and decision making abilities on your end as the thesis student. So also you develop communication skills when you pitch, let's say, your project to other people, pitching your experimental design to your supervisor, to your peers, and sometimes to the public kung ipipresent mo yung study nito in the form of an oral presentation in a conference or a research poster. So, makuhon mo din yung communication skills mo in developing an experimental design. Okay? And also creativity. Doc Jeff pretty much described this in full length earlier on how to give a novel taste or a fresh context to an existing research, no? Kung if we think na parang yung available research natin ay nagawa na and hindi na kailangan, so creativity will save the day. And also adaptability, because a lot of unexpected challenges and uncertainties may arise during the experimentation process, and it's very important to have a backup plan if things don't work. No? So we should take some time to ideate on our research topic and also the experimental design. So, because it might be so that your research idea and your research proposal is very, very good looking on paper, pero the devil is in the details. Well, in this case, the devil is in the experimental design. Kasi, ang ganda-ganda ng experimental design mo, gagamitin ko itong methods na to, pumalpak yung instrument. So, what do you do now? So, kaya dapat, you should always prepare for a backup plan. Kung hindi pwedeng, let's say, itong method na to, then I have a backup method just in case. And you should keep it in, you should be able to be ready when that time comes na merong unexpected challenges and uncertainties sa experimentation process. And that spells why I put this adaptability skill when performing experiments experimental research.
And this is very important kasi just because you design an experiment doesn't mean that you're gonna get the result that you
Exactly.
So hindi lahat ng inaasahan nyo mangyayari when you perform your research. That's why sabi ni Kuya JP nyo, you have to be adaptive. So meaning, if you got an unexpected result, dapat alam nyo kung anong babaguhin nyo to get to that.
And we go back to your literature.
Yeah.
So parang kung may nakita ka na like anomalous result, so you go back to the research, to the body of literature. Kung may iba ba na naka-encounter nitong observation na to, then it might not be that you need to redo the whole experiment. Meron lang certain factor that is affecting that anomalous value that you'd be able to explain further on dun sa, let's say, pagdating ng thesis defense o may na-question bakit ganito yung result. So, you should be able to explain why that happened. Okay?
You mentioned something very important, going back to the literature, because you might be able to get alternative approaches and alternative explanations.
Yes.
So, again, if you don't get the result that you expect, there could be a reason, and you can learn a new approach by going back to the literature.
Yeah. Okay. So, most of the theses in the Philippines are carried out individually, but sometimes research studies also come in groups. So that's why you can also develop teamwork. It's also a venue where you can develop teamwork among students kapag nag-carry out ng science investigatory projects or thesis sa college level. And if you're doing it individually also, marami kang ka-interact ng mga players dun sa university mo, where you're interacting with your supervisor, you're interacting with the laboratory technicians, and what have you. And it's a very good place to develop and exercise teamwork skills in order to reach your research goals. So, and sabi ko nga dito, it can help improve interpersonal cooperation, coordination skills. Kasi kung ikaw yung type ng tao na, ako kasi parang personally, guilty ako na parang when it comes to like research projects, let's say, or any project, parang I take a huge chunk of the work, no? Kasi parang yung iba, very predisposed for that, na okay, kasarilinin ko. But your college thesis, when it's like a group work or any group work, dun mo pwedeng i-exercise yung delegation of duties and expectations among group members. And when you're carrying out like a team group type of thesis work, then make sure to exercise this. Kasi madadala mo siya after graduation, no? Paano pag ikatrabaho ka na ikaw pa rin na ikaw? So, di ba dapat you should be able to delegate the task, divide the task among your group mates, and then expect an output from each one, and be able to collaborate and bank on the strengths of your group members. Kasi iba-iba tayo ng di ba? Yung mga estudyante iba-iba ng expertise. So we can leverage the expertise of each group member para mas maging full-bodied or mas magiging well-rounded yung ating research output in the end. So these are the some of the soft skills, of course, these are not everything, but also I might just add that patience, no? Parang when you're doing experiments and things don't go the way you expected them, so sometimes it just takes time. Parang okay, sige, parang may may ginawa ko na haphazard or may minadali ako na experiment kaya siya pumalpak. Then you should exercise patience and perseverance or grit para
and also
yeah,
honesty and integrity, no? If you know,
important.
yeah, kapag alam nyo na medyo sloppy yung pagkakagawa nyo, and alam nyo nag-reflect siya sa result, you have to acknowledge it. Okay, that experiment was not done the right way. So therefore, I wouldn't trust the result. So because if you are not honest about your results, you're setting yourself up for more difficulties in the future. Not only because your results are not valid, but also you are developing a certain form of attitude that is very results oriented. So you're after the results, but not necessarily reliability, because people will believe you. People will believe your work. So if they adapt or if they actually use your learnings for what they do, you're also negatively impacting them because you're giving them false information.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ayun. So in a nutshell, I'm just leaving this slide here kasi ito yung talagang heart ng experimental design, which is the control of experiments. Okay?
You have to perform this. You have to verify if your positive results are really positive. All right. So, by the way,
sorry, naging robotic at choppy pala ako. Sorry.
No problem. So to where saying it got fixed naman. So,
Yeah.
ayan. So by the way, tomorrow we will have the second part, and JP will talk to you about data analysis, which is very important. So that's the first talk. We will follow it up with skills on how you can draw meaningful conclusions, and then we will cap the session with a session on scientific report writing. How do you write up your thesis? So that's very important. Ayan. So thank you so much for tuning us with us. So perhaps, like for those of you who still have the patience to stick around for some questions, perhaps JP and I can entertain some questions from the audience.
Some few more questions, but I saw that you already posted the attendance form and evaluation. So the way we do it is that dalawa yung session natin, Saturday, Sunday. So you will get 2 certificates for both sessions, no? So
one for today and one for tomorrow.
Yeah. And then tomorrow another attendance form.
Yep. So again, para po sa inyo who are still available, perhaps we can dedicate 10 minutes for questions if you may have some. All right. And we have one. So question by Sir Marlo Fabia. This is directed for you to JP. What are the approaches to be done to support validity of chosen DOE's test method, especially for novel research study with limited available review of related literature?
So itong design
bookends, how do you identify the bookends?
So ito, yung pag-determine ng bookend values is also rooted on your related literature. So hindi naman siya figuring out of nowhere, no? So in-establish siya by different studies from before, and then doon ka lang nag-dwell. Although, kasi nga, parang ito na in-establish, and we trust that those studies really reflect the ideal case. Then doon ka magsiset nitong mga bookend values na to in performing this design of experiments. So, the validity is found on these past researches on this topic, and then especially for novel research study with limited. Kapag bago lang, no? So, ayun.
Okay.
So, kapag bagong ano lang, and then ikaw yung mag-establish nun. No?
Yep.
So,
siguro yung itagdag ko lang dito, JP, kasi valid yung ang ganda ng points na sinabi po ni JP na you start with what's in the literature, no? Pero kung kulang na kulang talaga, sabi ni JP, you have to establish that.
Ikaw yung mag-establish.
Yes. Meron din po tayong tinatawag kang idea ng low value. Ito yung typical value na nakikita mo, for example, temperature. Ang nakita mo lang is from 25 to 30. Di ba ang napaka-narrow ng range na yon? You can actually start like one experiment na nasa extreme end. Go to 75. Pwedeng ganun po. And then you figure it out that way. Yung ganun kapag kulang. So you have to set the boundary conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then, pag nakikita mo na dun sa sinet mo na limit ay hindi pa rin siya effective, then set further limits, no? And then play around with the values in the end.
Iisip po kayo ng question. Baka pwede po tayo mag-group photo sa Zoom before kayo mag-dial out. Okay ba yun? Mag-group photo.
Just stop sharing.
We will what you call this? We will entertain more questions do sa mga ano pa.
Habang mag-iisip kayo. Yeah.
Meron ba sa inyong willing magbukas ng camera? Pakita niyo ang mga magaganda niyong muka.
And by the way, this will be posted sa just a heads up. This will be posted sa mga social media handles namin. So, if you're not comfortable, then we don't really force you to share your beautiful faces. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Ayan. Meron pa po ba kayong mga questions? So, again, kami po ni JP dito nag-focus kami sa skills and practical side. Yung technical approaches, you can watch it in our previous webinars. Yung po medyo formulaic na approach. But then, dito po talaga namin pinapakita na ano ba talaga yung kailangan yung gawin. Ayan. May mga questions pa po ba?
Ayan. So tomorrow, what we're going to discuss is the data analysis side naman. So I will start the discussion, I think. And then Kuya Jeff will carry on with the technical writing.
Yep, I will carry on with the technical writing and drawing conclusions. Okay, may question dito. By Nino Jesilito Doidora. What is your take in using AI in generating questions and methods? Siguro ito, simulan ko lang yung pagsagot, JP, and then add to this. Okay, so AI is a quick way to come up with initial ideas and research and methods, no? I wouldn't.
It's very useful.
Yeah, I wouldn't discourage you from doing it. It's a quick way. But ang risk po kasi with AI, and you have to take yung outputs nun with a grain of salt, is it's based on information from the open internet, from the World Wide Web. So meaning or false. So when you get ideas or questions from AI, you have to take things with a grain of salt and you have to do the due diligence of checking, okay, is this basis from a legitimate information? From a verifiable set of facts. Kasi baka po mag-depend lang kayo doon na hindi nyo chine-check, baka mali din yung idea o baka hindi solid yung idea na mabuo nyo. So it's okay, it's a quick way to generate good research questions, but i-check nyo lang yung basis.
So what you can do is you can ask AI the research question and then research on that output from AI, no? So parang gamitin nyo lang yung AI to have like a
Some AI,
lead way.
yep. And I think there are also some AI tools like ChatGPT that they're developing for research. So essentially, merong parang ChatGPT version for journal articles.
Yeah.
So, ayun. And to be honest, like technically your search databases like Google's ayun. All right. Any more questions po? All right. Mukhang
Sa YouTube.
mostly thinking us.
Okay. Yeah. So we hope that you still stick around tomorrow for the next session.
Actually, tomorrow po yung mas technical kasi JP is gonna talk about data processing and data analysis. I will talk about writing of scientific report and most especially how do you draw conclusions. So, ayan, review of literature is life. So, all right? So, maraming salamat po sa pagsama sa amin kasabay ng inyong mga tanghalian. This is the
alauna na, sorry.
Yeah, inabot po kayo ng alauna. But then, ito po kasi ang way namin to fit all of these topics within just a couple of days. But then, if you're after like the more comprehensive talks, we have them in our YouTube channel. So we'd be happy to talk to you again tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon po and we'll see you again.
See you.
Ayan.
Thank you.
Thank you. JP, thank you so much for waking up very early para sa mga kababayan natin.
Okay. Daylight saving eh.
All right, thank you everyone. Ingat po
Okay,
kayo.
see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye.